welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Tal, and with me here today is Brian. Welcome back, Brian.
Ah, boy, Lois, this is worse than the time I guest starred on Too Many Movies. But yeah, thanks for having me back. It's been a bit, but it was fun. You might remember me from the famous Salt, you know,
Yeah,
biggest
everything's changed
episode
since the
from
Salt
that.
episode. The podcast has never been the
Yeah,
same since the
yeah.
Salt episode.
Hmm. It's not a coincidence that right after the Salt episode was the Barbenheimer episode, and that was the downfall of the podcast. Think about it like that.
Well, some
Mhm.
may believe that, some may not. It's up to the audience to
Mhm.
decide on that.
We fall for the propaganda, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, speaking of
who's to say?
propaganda, Seth propaganda. So, I wanted you on here today because you had a very keen interest in talking about one of the Blu-rays I have, which is Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy Uncensored.
Ooh,
So,
uncensored.
yeah,
Wow.
this is the
Uh,
uncensored version.
Not sure what the censored version would be like, but yeah. So if you know me personally, I think I even mentioned it a little bit in the last episode I did, but I have a very particular interest in Seth MacFarlane. It started out as like this really stupid joke in my friend group because I think it would have been like I think mid 2021 or something. Ellis Mark released this video about just the character of Brian Griffin, and I was like, from watching that video, I was like, I find Family Guy's stock art very funny. There's this one particular image of you've probably seen it. It's like Brian Griffin crossing his arms. I was like, that looks funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Changed my PFP to that, my name to that. I was like, oh, hi, I'm Brian now. Some people think that's just my actual name, but no, it's just because of fucking Family Guy, which I find really funny actually that there's like that miscommunication there. But yeah, then from there, that sort of just grown as like it's a half ironic, half unironic thing. Cause I haven't seen like every Seth MacFarlane thing, but I have like the good or I've had to rough it. I've probably seen like half of Family Guy and all the MacFarlane, like all the Ted stuff, everything, all that. And not as much American Dad, that other stuff. Seen a full season of the Cleveland show, so that's something
Well, that's the
that
one
not
that
many
matters
people can
most is
say.
the Cleveland show.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I have a pretty big resume there as the McFarlane expert. But yeah, this was the one of the last things I was curious about because I had heard about it for a while. Essentially, as this like, oh, they released a bunch of glorified Family Guy cutaway gags as like internet shorts a while ago. It seemed very, very interesting to me. Weird that it's even like relatively popular. I don't know if you figured this out, but apparently some shorts were sponsored by Priceline, Nike, and Burger King. So those like weirdly big plugs
No
behind
kidding.
this thing. It's quite
Wow.
yeah, really.
I,
It's
I
it's
did not pick
crazy.
up on that.
I, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Some of these shorts, I don't know if like a big name would want their face on. Like, oh, yeah, Burger King putting the face on the show where Quentin Tarantino slashes up an infant. But
I think
mm.
Disney would be a big fan of the Fred Flintstone takes a shit segment, personally.
Oh yeah, that that iconic one. But um yeah, so but yeah, that was checking this out. I know some people really, really hate these, and it's like I get it,
Mhm.
they're just but also it's like for me, I have this at a relatively low rating, but also just kind of hard to be mad at what's essentially just the prototype Family Guy funny moments compilation. The people do
Absolutely.
this stuff all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah.
compile, but
Yeah, exactly.
mhm.
So, I guess yeah, cuz I gave it a low score too. I didn't give it quite as low as you did, but even still like yeah, I agree. It's just basically glorified Family Guy compilation, like Family Guy cutaway gags just without any Family Guy characters. So it's like what am I really expecting here? Like
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not that angry by any of these jokes. I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of them are funny. In fact, I think a lot of them are not funny. I'll put my foot down on that one, but
Mm.
who cares really?
Mm. I mean, I'll give it this. It essentially just gives you what's advertised. It's like
Hmm.
all of them have very blatant names, and you go in and it's like, oh, that was something, and then you're on to the next one. Like he's like, oh, what? Fred Flintstone takes a shit. Like, I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
And you put that on. It's a minute of that,
Yeah.
and just go on for like 50 something. Um, I think I think a problem with just the jokes in general, and this is a pet peeve I have with a lot of Family Guy stuff, where I feel like it's less a joke and more so they'll like say a specific thing and they'll do that thing, and I guess the joke is you're supposed to know what that is, or oh, this is just a very specific scenario that you might have got it into, and that's just the joke. And that's like, there's a couple of these that are just very like simple in that vein, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not really much of a punchline, it's just kind of a thing. And it's not overly unfunny,
Hmm.
but it just leaves me kind of confused, like, oh, that's it?
Yeah,
Okay.
or that the
But,
joke is something so vastly tasteless and out there that
mm,
that your reaction is itself the joke, but at the same time, because you're expecting that kind of tasteless punchline, you're just like, whatever, and
yeah,
then your whatever
exactly.
reaction's
'Cause
not funny, so there's no comedy to be had.
yeah, exactly. This comes from a very, like, particular era of Family Guy where they're kind of always known for this, but in particular, like, late 2000s, early 2010s. This is the stuff where they were very known for just being like, "Oh, we're just gonna just do anything," and it'll be like it's funny because it's edgy
Yeah.
or it's trying to be, like, overly crass, but I think, like you said, when you're expecting that, one, it just comes off as try hard. Like a lot of these shorts, they're like if they go overly like vulgar or gory, it's like, ah,
Hmm.
we're just trying to be shocking. And then ironically, when you do that, it's not very shocking at all. So it's just like, ah,
Yeah.
that's something. And yeah, I think the other thing of it is obviously I don't think this has ever been confirmed, but from the way all these are structured, it seems very obviously like, oh, these were things that we intended to be Family Guy cutaway gags. And, you know, they either couldn't do them or they didn't fit. So there's like, oh, we'll put them on here. That's not inherently a terrible concept, but I think it kind of misses at least some of the point of why that stuff is funny in the first place. Because like, if you're watching an average Family Guy episode, I think part of what the reason the cutaways became such a iconic thing is it helps with the pacing in a way that you can have just a full episode or whatever, and they'll just be these random cuts, and it's quick, and then it's like, oh, but it's a little brief thing. And you can actually get back to what the story is. Obviously, there's no Family Guy characters, no story that it's cutting away from. It just kind of comes off as like just kind of blah
Yeah.
and tasteless,
I,
especially the longer ones. I just feel like they're dragging.
I
But
was definitely
yeah,
noticing that. Yeah, how a lot of them were maybe about more than a minute, maybe even closer to
mm,
like 2 or 3 minutes. Some of them got pretty long where it was obvious they could never be Family Guy cutaways because, yes, the Family Guy cutaways, even at their unfunniest, they were usually fairly short. So it's like,
yeah,
again,
yeah,
harkening back to that, okay, it's not funny, but it's over with. What am I actually angry at this point? So you kind of just
yeah,
brush it off as whatever. Whereas here, it does it does get very irritating after a while when uh
yeah,
you get the joke.
mm,
Do we want to like
definitely.
do we want to go through like each one of them? I pulled up the Wikipedia page with them. I don't think they're
Yeah.
necessarily in the order I watched them in, but uh we can just, round
I
off
have a
each
full
segment.
list here,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah, sure. I guess we can just go down. Most of these are just very simple punchlines and whatever, but
Yeah.
there weren't many that overly stood out. But
Yeah, some of them did,
Yeah.
but I get we'll come across those when we get to them. So there's
Yeah.
Super Mario Rescues the Princess, which
Mm.
is
I
literally
didn't like this one because
no.
it seemed very, very try hard. Like it's such a stupid internet humor thing where
It's
it's like,
oh, I was
oh,
gonna say
they
that.
wanted
It's every
yeah,
YouTube video game parody you've ever seen about Mario.
exactly. It's so stupid. Like it I just before you get the short, you can just predict the punchline, and
Yeah.
that's the worst type of stuff where it thinks it's so like
Mario
where
wants
it's
a
just like,
kiss and
oh,
Princess Peach says no. It's like, "Oh, great. Oh, wow. I
yeah,
can't believe I predicted that
yeah.
incredibly obvious punchline."
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think from one of the other ones where they just kind of just drag it on a little bit, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, kind of
Yeah,
kind of lame.
where and
Well,
that's another thing Family Guy does, where they drag out the mundaneness, where they'll just keep it going again to get that reaction out of you. But when you're expecting you're expecting the cartoon to give you that reaction, you double down and don't give them that reaction, and so it's just an entirely pointless segment.
yeah, exactly.
There's
It's kind of funny seeing stuff in the Family Guy art style because it just
sure,
looks really cheap, like that stuff.
yeah,
But that's more of an ironic thing. I don't think I
oh,
can actually give
absolutely.
that
No.
to the
No,
shorts.
no. Just
Uh,
looking at the cover of the Blu-ray real quick, just all the characters have those like circular uh Family Guy eyes where they like the eyelids are halfway
yes.
down. You know what I'm talking about. Like that's the
Yeah, yeah,
majority of
and the
these
fucking
characters.
default standing pose
The
where they're
default
just
standing
stiff as a
pose,
board.
it's
Yeah.
obnoxious that it's funny.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Definitely.
moving on to the other segments. So there's a dog on
Mhm.
the $25,000 pyramid. Oh, that's the one where the dog is barking the whole time and the guy can't
Yeah.
guess what he's talking about. And then the dog speaks English at the end where he's like, "Oh, it was a toaster, you asshole," or something like that. It's like, "Oh,
Uh,
funny."
that's something, I guess.
uh, why Bob
Uh,
Marley should not have acted as his own attorney. Oh, that's the one where they're saying like he admits to shooting the sheriff, but he also admits to not shooting
yeah,
the deputy. We can get him on the and you're just like, ugh.
yeah, yeah. See, these ones are so weird because this type of Family Guy joke is so weird, but they'll be like, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's like, oh, we're gonna name a celebrity and what they
Mm,
do, and that's like the joke. But if you don't know who that person is, it just kind of comes off as gibberish to the audience, and it's like, oh,
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
not overly familiar with Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Well, why is he in this situation? I
I'm
would
I'm
picked up
familiar
on
with
that.
I'm familiar
Is it-
enough to know that he does have a song where where the line is I shot the sheriff but I did not shoot the deputy, but it's like, okay. like
Is
I
that enough to base a minute joke on?
yeah, no,
Like, okay.
not enough. Like it just yeah, exactly.
No.
If it was a Family Guy
Mhm.
cutaway, it would have been like 5 or 10 seconds long, and it probably would have been giving you a chuckle. But this one went on for like what 30 to 45 seconds. I don't even
Yeah.
remember. It was much longer than it
Yeah.
needed to be.
Mhm.
Uh, there's
So,
the adopted segment, uh, with the stick nipples and Albert Horsefeet shit sneeze.
yeah, this is another one where I feel the length kinda gets to it because it's like
Yeah,
that's the type of thing where it'd be like, "Oh, it's a funny visual." They have, like, weird
they
tits,
have the
and
weird
then
nipples.
you can
Yeah,
just cut from that. And then the fact that it's like, oh, the fact that they have to halt on that and put attention to it, and then gotta ramp it up with, like, the shit sneeze and all that. It's
yeah.
like,
I
it
feel
just
like
again, just feels very try
yeah,
hard by that
the
point.
funnier version of this segment would be if they said, "Son, you're adopted," and he goes, "What?" and that's it because you just see them with their stick nipples and he doesn't have them. So, but
Yeah.
of course they had to drag it out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god, the next segment, I really fucking hate this one. A Scotsman who can't watch a movie without shouting at the screen. And this one breaks new ground because it's just funny accent.
yeah.
He's talking about a movie. And
Kermit, you
oddly
can't
enough, there
bring
are
the
two of
Muppets.
these,
Yeah,
weirdly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's,
yeah. You just have Seth
it's another
MacFarlane
one where
doing
just
his
such a
Scottish accent
simple
where he's just like, "Oh,
yeah, yeah.
Bender, you can't do something. This I'm watching The Breakfast Club." You're just like, "Uh huh."
There's another one just really simple punchline is, we gotta keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Enough for two segments again, so it's just okay.
Yeah.
That's certainly something. Uh, and Two Ducks watch Meet the Parents. This one stood out to me because it's such a specific movie to plug. Like, a random Ben Stiller, Robert De Niro movie from like what, like 9 years ago when the movie this came out. Very odd plug. It's another thing where I think it would be funny if that was just like the title is funnier than the joke. It's like, oh, that's oddly specific.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that be a thing? And it's like, oh, again, another to keep describing it. It's like,
Yeah,
boring.
this one stood out to me too because the ducks were constantly going, "This just isn't funny. This isn't funny. I don't think this is funny." And I'm like, "Hmm."
Yeah. Mm. It's funny when Family Guy does that too. They're like, wow, the show has such a weird sense of humor, and you're watching like a modern Family Guy episode. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Never see the irony in that. After this is another Scotsman one, so that's something.
Mm-hmm.
Two in a row.
Two
Ooh.
in a row, and again, it's the same punchline. He has a funny voice.
Yeah. Moving forward. Uh, I forgot what there's a cat one. I don't know.
That's the one where
This is like a
the cats are in like a staff meeting, and you can see outside the window, and there's a dog driving what is that, the wrecking ball machine?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's another funny visual, I guess.
I think it
It's
would have been
cats having a meeting.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I think it would have been funnier if you just see the dog outside with the wrecking ball and you don't see it destroy the meeting. I feel like this would work better as a comic, like a one panel comic you see in the New Yorker. But of course they had to go with
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
crashing it
exactly.
through, and then you have the dog go like, haha, assholes, or something like that. Like
Yeah, yeah. In the fucking default Seth MacFarlane voice. Like, okay. All right.
You know, it's funny. We always talk about the default Family Guy poses, visual stuff, but you're absolutely right in
Yeah.
that they'll some is that their voice acting has like default versions. So yeah, the default Seth MacFarlane voice. You're absolutely right.
It's funny to phrase it like that because that's just how he actually speaks,
But that's
that
exactly
voice.
what it
But
is, though. You're right. Like that's exactly what
yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Sometimes it just takes me out of it. I'm like, oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. And you
Yeah.
just got Seth again for a random line. Like, all right, buddy. I doubt he even wrote most of these, to be fair. They just slapped his name on it because it's like, oh, Family Guy's popular now. It's a Seth MacFarlane's cavalcade of
Yeah.
cartoon comedy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. I forget this next one. Barry Gibb rides a roller coaster.
That
I don't.
is the one where it's the lead singer of Bee Gees going up a roller coaster because he's going like and then and then it goes down, and I can't remember what he did. I mean, he might have screamed, I don't know, but the joke is that,
I
oh, the lead
probably.
singer of the guy who's saying "Staying Alive" is going up a roller coaster.
Uh, yeah. It's just another really oddly
Yeah,
specific one.
it's a
Like,
single joke. To be fair, this is one of those singular jokes where it doesn't go on for too long. It goes on exactly as long as it needs to, but it is just a singular joke.
yeah, yeah. It's one of the ones that could probably fit a little better as an actual cutaway, but even
Mm-hmm.
still, it's like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
very, very simple one. Uh, Next one. Again, all these were just so back to back that
Yeah.
they all just kind of blend in my
I'm
mind.
starting to
But
remember some of them. So yeah, marital troubles is the next one
yeah,
listed on Wikipedia, and that's the one where
yeah,
the wife is chewing out her husband, and then it cuts the camera because you only see the husband from the back of the head, and then it
yeah.
cuts to him facing front, and he's a mime.
That one has at least more of an actual punchline to it.
Yeah,
I'll give it
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like, it's kind of clever, but
yeah. And then we
oh
have
yeah, then another fucking celebrity one, the Jeff Goldblum.
the
Like,
Jeff Goldblum
it's a
wafers.
funny Jeff Goldblum voice, and he's advertising something.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Which it was a very impressive
crazy.
Jeff Goldblum impression. I was thinking the whole time, I'm just thinking, is that actually Jeff Goldblum? Because I would have bought it if it was. It's not, but
Yeah.
it was not bad. But yeah, again, it could have just been like, hi there, I'm Jeff Goldblum. I'm selling wafers. And then that's it. But no, they had to
Yeah,
they had to
exactly.
keep it going for like 2 minutes.
Hmm. And then okay, this one had Jesus in it.
Jesus and
Religious
Vishnu.
joke, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve, that's when
Yeah.
Jesus is just like, "Hey, Vishnu, it's my birthday, and it's your birthday too. Look, everybody's celebrating my birthday. Aw, nobody's celebrating your birthday." It's like, okay.
That's something.
I mean, I
Uh
guess I learned that Vishnu was born on December 24th, so that's cool.
wow. Educational.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, the next one, the Frog Prince. I don't know about you. This is one I watched this on Daily Motion weirdly because that's where it had all of them just in the compilation thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, with this, this was the first one on the DVD, I think, from when I watched it,
Yeah, this was
or
the
I
first
remember
one
that.
on the
Remember the
Blu-ray.
first. Yeah. This is one that it's not a funny joke, but I found it very funny because it's one of those again, or just that stock pose where they're mostly just laying about, and there's that frog, and he has that default Family Guy character like mouth shape
Yeah, he
and dead eyes.
does.
It's like it's not that funny, but just it like
Yeah.
sitting there like that. It's really funny to me.
Yeah,
Like
make no mistake. I'm not laughing because because the segment is actually funny. I'm laughing at how unfunny it is.
yeah, it's another one just such an obvious like joke. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the Frog Prince, but he's not a frog. He's just horny, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all right, buddy.
You're a sick pervert. Well, I'm the one with the boner. It's like,
Wow. Yippee. Um, and then monkeys talk about religion. Uh, this is another one that it's a blah, I guess. I don't
yeah.
know.
Did
There's
Monkey
not much of a
does
punchline.
Monkey Jesus like throwing his own shit and eating a banana and
Yeah,
looking left and right, thinking people are gonna take his banana or something like that? It's one of those.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It
one of
was like
those
that.
Family Guy jokes where they will just list stereotypes, uh, which can be kind of comical, but like sometimes if it's like very specific, it's a very specific kind of stereotype. It's like, okay,
Mm,
that's kind of funny, you know.
yeah. Sometimes it just feels weird because it's like you're not making a joke with that
Hmm.
stereotype. It's just you're
Yeah,
saying a thing,
you're just saying a
and
thing.
it's like, oh,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. The joke is
mm,
Seth MacFarlane's default voice is coming out of a monkey talking about Christianity, but putting monkey at the beginning of monkey God, monkey Jesus.
yeah. I forget what the mountain climber one was, but on my site it says
Oh,
the description says he shits while at the top of the mountain.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I think that tells you
Yeah, no,
the
I remember
quality
this
of
one.
that one.
It's when the mountain climber is climbing on the mountain and he goes, "Oops, gotta poop," and then he takes a shit, and there's a wedding at the bottom, and and the priest goes, "If anybody has any objections, speak now or forever hold your peace." And then a gigantic like slimy turd falls on the groom and the bride, and they both go, "Well, that's enough for me. Thanks for coming, everybody," and then they walk away.
It's such a stupid punchline. Just fucking it's like
I could see why they call this the uncensored version.
whoa, this is hardcore,
Yeah,
man.
hardcore, man.
Yeah. Mm. The next one is another where I didn't get the celebrity joke. Ted Nugent is visited by the ghost of Christmas past. I
If
kind of like it caught me off guard a little. They were like, "Oh, they killed a ghost,"
Yeah.
and they fed ghost meat. I guess.
Uh,
Like, okay.
I'm not that familiar with Ted Nugent. I've heard the name. If I had to guess, I'm assuming he's a controversial like a gun owner or something like that. Like he's one of those
Maybe.
like right wing gun people. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm not as familiar with Ted Nugent either. But yes, the thing that bothered me about this cartoon actually I wanted to bring up is that they say it's the ghost of Christmas past, but they give the ghost of Christmas they make it look like the ghost of Christmas yet to come, because the ghost of Christmas
Oh
yet to come
shit, that's true.
is the
Actually,
hooded one, is the
I
one
didn't
with the
even.
hood, the
Yeah, I didn't even
faceless
think
hooded
about it
one.
because
Yeah,
that's the design they often use for
yeah.
that. Oh,
So,
wow, that's odd.
it was
They,
incredibly odd. As someone who's a massive fan of A Christmas Carol, that really annoyed me.
yeah, I guess a default the Ghost of Christmas Future is easier to do a design for. Oh, just a guy in a
So
cloak.
then
We
call
can
it
put that.
Ted Nugent is visited by the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Like that,
Yeah,
that
that's,
uh,
I don't know. They could have
yeah.
changed the title. All right, sure. Uh, that's odd. I didn't even think about that, but
Yeah.
that's true. Then this one, mad cow disease. This is another where just like, oh, I think the joke was cannibalism or
Yeah.
something. They're like, oh, watching the TV. Oh no, they ate the cow.
Yeah,
That's
the
fine.
cows are watching
But
TV and they just have shocked faces. And again, they could have just cut to that and that'd have been enough, but they had to have one of the cows
yeah,
voiced by Seth MacFarlane going, or no, maybe it wasn't Seth MacFarlane, but they have the bull go like, "Oh, well then." It's like, when did
well,
that
that
happen?
just happened.
Well, that
Like,
just happened.
come on. This next one I remember not liking a lot because it was just like the bartender thing. It's a horse, and just the horse gets offended and he just
I
yells a bunch.
kind of like this one just
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
how out of the blue the punchline is. How kind of mean and out of the blue the punchline is. I kind of like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, basically the yes, there's a couple of guys at a bar and they make the joke of, oh, they make the classic bartender horse joke. A horse walks into a bar, a bartender says, "Why the long face?" And so then there's an actual horse there
Yeah.
that gets really offended. And then and then they start having a back and forth and they're just like, "Why do you have so many drinks?" He's like, hooves, moron, I can't lift the fucking glass." And then at the end they're just like, "Oh, let come on guys, let's get along, you know, I'm Mike, I'm whoever." And the horse goes, "Sarah Jessica Parker."
Hmm.
Which, for all you kids
That's
out
not that
there,
funny. But I think it's like, guess it works in a sort of shock sense,
yeah,
but
the
yeah.
joke is, for all you kids out there who have no idea who Sarah Jessica Parker is, she looks like a horse. That's the joke. Which, look, I'll give it to
See,
Family
the joke
Guy.
is that a
She
person's
does.
ugly.
Yeah,
It's like, wow,
yeah. Well, she actually does
crazy.
look like a horse. She has that like she actually does have that bit of a long face. So
Ah,
so
crazy. Yeah. Again, that's just another one where it's like another like required knowledge
yes,
joke, like
yeah.
celebrities.
So I
If you
did
show this to
find
a
it
random
funny.
person now, they're not
Yeah,
good.
so I can
Yeah.
see why that would not be funny, because if you're not familiar with Sarah Jessica Parker, which again, I'm sure a lot of younger people are not familiar with who Sarah Jessica Parker is. She was the young witch in Hocus Pocus. That's probably where most young people would probably know her from. If that is, if you actually have watched Hocus Pocus.
I have not seen Hocus
Oh,
Pocus.
good for you.
Wow. Uh, then oh god, then the other one. There's a bad streak of jokes here. I'm
Yeah,
looking at
this
all at
is
once. There's another one. Yeah. Uh, backstage with Bob Dylan
yeah.
is I don't again another random celebrity one. It's like okay, Popeye shows up
Hmm.
for some reason. It's like okay, I know
Yeah.
who Popeye is.
Yeah, we know who
Uh,
Popeye is. I know of Bob Dylan and Tom
not a crime.
Waits. It's just
Mhm.
I don't listen to them, so I'm not as familiar with what they sound like. I get the joke is that they mumble a lot, but again, that could have
Mhm.
been a 5-second joke, but instead they stretch it out.
Yeah, just goes on like that a
Then we
while.
then we
Very,
have Fred and
very.
Barney try to get into a
Oh god, this is
club.
the first Flintstones joke. This is iconic.
Yeah.
Is because as we all know, Seth MacFarlane loves the Flintstones.
Yeah.
He even tried making a Flintstones cartoon before he thought that guys. So he thought that Fred Flintstone was too similar to Peter Griffin, so he couldn't make a Flintstones reboot. Have you heard about this? It's really funny, actually.
I've heard of him like I've heard of him actually developing a Flintstones reboot, and then it went nowhere. I
Yeah,
didn't know about the whole saying that Fred Flintstone and Peter Griffin were similar. I didn't know about that.
yeah, I heard about it because he. This would have been like I think like a decade or so, maybe a little earlier at this point. He was like commissioned to do that. And I guess nothing came from it except from like I think some concept art leaked, but no like actual recording or anything. So that probably would have been like boring or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I don't know many diehard Flintstones fans out there
yeah,
who are dying
they're
over it.
getting less and less prominent as the years go by. So maybe Nostalgia Critic
Yeah.
was right.
My main Flintstones memory is in the Simpsons episode, The Day the Violence Died. They're talking about like how characters rip off each other, and they're talking about how if we wouldn't have the Flintstones if they didn't rip off the Honeymooners, and they go off on like that.
Yeah.
But that's like a random joke in a
Yeah.
random season 7 episode. So no one likes the Flintstones anymore. You know, maybe this joke about them trying to get into a club will reinvigorate interest. You know, it's very funny.
Yeah.
Because he can't get in. I think as like some guy from I think it's the Jetsons. Another guy comes in, and Fred's like, "Damn it,
Yeah, it's the Great
can't get
Gazoo.
in."
I
It's
don't think
very
he
fun.
was on the Jetsons. I think he was.
Was that
I think he
was
was.
that wacky?
He was no. So
Might be wacky races.
Great Gazoo. Again, I'm not a fan. I'm not a Flintstone expert. I'm just going off of what I can remember. I'm pretty sure was brought on to the Flintstones as a sort of extra character to kind of spruce up the Flintstones and their ratings. You know, it's one of those classic. It's basically
Okay.
what they did with what they parodied in The Simpsons with the Poochie episode, where they add another character.
Okay, yeah.
So they added this
Yeah.
alien that just goes back in time to Flintstone era, and only Fred can see him.
Oh,
Yeah. So
well,
it's
that's something.
it's canon to the whole Flintstones canon. So thank you for that, Seth.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the most I've learned about Flintstones in forever.
Well, there you
But
go. And it's from
yeah.
someone who's not a Flintstone expert.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, then there's this other one, beavers, assholes of the forest. I should remember this one because again, the beaver has the default Seth MacFarlane
Yeah.
face.
Yeah,
That's very
they have
funny.
the default Seth
Okay.
MacFarlane face, and then the deer walks over and says, "Hey man, what'd you do with my Departed DVD?" And he's like, "Fuck that, man. You should watch
It's
a
like
good movie." Like, oh, what's the dumbass movie he recommended?
it's like Rush Hour 3 or
Rush
something.
Hour 3.
He's like,
That's
I
what it
love
was.
Chris Tucker in
Yeah.
Rush Hour 3.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Great.
All right.
Yeah, The Departed, Rush Hour 3, Chris Tucker. These are things woodland animals wouldn't normally talk about. That's the joke.
What a contemporary reference.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I will say this.
Yeah,
while
this
watching...
one. Okay, this next one. Yeah. This next one made me really mad actually. Because it's the perfect like definition of like the stupid type of Seth MacFarlane joke where it's like, haha, this is a relatable thing.
Oh, things
you never hear.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, haha, they're saying something, but it's not something people would say, and that's relatable, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's such a basic joke, and they like rattle off like 10 of these.
Yeah,
like,
some of
okay.
them are, yes, you're right, absolute typical Family Guy humor where it's the writers going, well, we think this way, and anybody who thinks differently is weird and stupid. The one I did laugh at because it just caught me off guard was, Joe Pantoliano is quite gifted at playing non-Italians.
Okay, that one I remember because it was like, oh, that's a very specific plug.
Yeah.
And certainly interesting. This next one, A Trip to the Psychiatrist. I remember this one. It's a fat joke.
Oh yeah,
she's
it's
like,
the fat chick who goes to the psychiatrist and she thinks she's bulimic. Okay,
yeah. She's fat.
Yeah.
Moving forward. Oh god, this next one I remember because it was the first one that went on a really long time. It's like, I think the description, this one says everything. Where a Canadian man and a monkey have gay sex.
Yeah,
I think that.
Yeah, AIDS patient zero. It's when a Canadian guy, a gay Canadian guy, and a monkey have sex. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, that just happened. Yeah. Okay, this is the next one. We're getting into the really good ones now. This one I was just like, okay, come on. Like, name that animal penis. Like, okay. It's just like, I sort of respect the boldness. It's like, make the stupidest joke, and that's just what the sketch is.
Mm-hmm.
Really weirdly, like, overly drawn, overly detailed thing.
Yeah.
And they call in a guy, and it's like, oh, what is it? What is it? It's another where I think it was very clearly like, oh, it's another one where we got to be very crass of it. It's like, haha.
Yeah.
It's a dick, and because it's not on network TV, you can see it.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly.
Maybe that's where the uncensored part
Yeah.
of the DVD came into play.
That's a good point. And then it ends with the joke is that Kermit sticks his dick in the glory hole.
Yeah. That one, it's not a funny joke, but I don't know. I like shitty Kermit impressions.
yeah. The Seth MacFarlane shitty Kermit impression. Where Seth MacFarlane does the Kermit impression a lot because he thinks he's good at it. He's kind of not, but at least you understand the reference. You understand that he's doing a Kermit voice, but it's just not a good Kermit voice.
Yeah. You know, he does it a little better than Matt Vogel. I'll give him that.
I'll give him that too.
Yeah. This next one, I remember because it seems like it's another very basic punchline, but it gets a little better. Die, sweet Roadrunner, die. It's like, oh, he kills the Roadrunner, but what's he gonna do now? Wile E. Coyote is depressed.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's I appreciate a little more. There is a glimpse of like a joke to it. It's like, oh, it's like he becomes just an average guy after he dies and he gets like depressed or whatever. It's another one where it's like it kind of caught me off guard at the end where the end joke is, now that's how I got better. And then he's like, so do you have like an hour of your time to talk about Jesus Christ? And the guy's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it ends.
Yeah.
Not that funny, but it's like, oh, that's something.
Yeah, it's a bit of a punchline. I didn't know where they were gonna go, so I was like, okay.
It's a little less of just another basic joke. So
yeah,
it gets that at the very least. But oh god, I hated these. The fucking sex with blank.
Yeah.
And it's just specific. I don't even remember. They do 3 of these, and I forget which ones had which jokes. So I guess we can just rattle them off, but it's all just okay.
Yeah. So there's sex with Mr. Sulu, which it's just Seth MacFarlane doing his George Takei impression, where he goes, "Oh." That's it. There's the folk singer, where it's just a folk singer just singing that he just had sex. The joke. Necrophiliac is one where the guy's having sex and then it's revealed he's actually having sex with Helena Bonham Carter because she looks like a corpse.
Yeah, that's another one where it's like, okay.
Yeah, and then
very specific.
Trapeze artist. I don't remember this one.
I don't either. I think it's like,
wait, is it
another definitely visual?
Wait. I think I remember. Yeah? It's the one where the guy clearly has a boner underneath his blanket, and then the woman is on a unicycle on his boner, and then a third guy flies in, and the guy goes, "I didn't agree to a threesome."
Well, that just happened. Oh god, then the next one, a fat guy working out. He's fat.
You know exactly
and he doesn't the punchline. Want to work out.
Yeah, we don't even need to explain this one. We can just move on. You know exactly the punchline.
Yeah. Oh my god, the next I fucking hated this one. Okay, so a gay night, and the joke is, oh, he's gay, so he acts a little effeminate and doesn't want to like. But it's okay.
And then the dragon.
I know this because. Yeah, it's funny because. Oh god, this sounds so offensive. But Seth MacFarlane has the exact same voice for every gay guy he does.
Yes.
So it's like, okay. Or the same like little effeminate, like, okay. So it's weird that but I don't know. It's another one. It's like, yeah, the title. A lot of these, I think you read the title and it's like, well, I don't even have to watch the fucking sketch.
Yeah, you know exactly what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Oh god, fuck. This next one too is so ass. It just a douchebag unicorn gives a public service announcement. Another one just like, haha, funny specific title, and then he just goes on about, oh wow, marijuana or something, and he's yelling it, so that's funny too. Yeah. It's kind of a unique design.
I did not expect that design of a unicorn. Sure.
No, yeah, there's that. Oh my god. This is the best one now. Fred Flintstone takes a shit, and
it even says in the Wikipedia description, Fred Flintstone takes a shit. That's about it. they're honest. I'll give them that. I'll give Wikipedia that.
I sort of respect the balls of the balls shit, but I respect the balls of this skit because it just like, I mean, yeah. It's just the worst joke.
Yeah.
and they're like, it's like they're just they know it's a terrible joke. They're just
Mhm.
kind of like running with it and going like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's yeah. Then oh god, then another reading these all back to back, it really just becomes apparent how many of these you can like be
And you
like, okay, this is another it's like this
and you're
brand,
just
this
getting
type,
annoyed
this
because you're
type.
remembering how unfunny a lot of them were.
Exactly. This goes on like that again and again. This one was Stuck on a Life Raft with Matthew McConaughey. The joke is that he's smug and
Is Matthew
go like that for a bit.
McConaughey even that smug? Because now,
I
in fairness, of the movies I've watched him in, he's never come across as smug at all. I don't know. I've never gotten
see, I don't even know
anything
him
any
that well for
yeah,
that, but
at least I've never seen him come across as smug any more than any other celebrity. I feel like because I feel like Family Guy really zeroes in on him a lot because there is that one Family Guy cutaway where Peter just goes, Matthew McConaughey is terrible.
McConaughey is terrible. Yeah. Mm.
Look, I'm not saying
I'm
I'm a
willing to
diehard
bet most of those like
I'm not a diehard
yeah.
Matthew McConaughey guy. I'm just saying what separates him from every other douchebag celebrity.
Oh my god, this is really funny actually. I'm looking at my letterbox to see, okay, what have I seen this guy in? And it's Sing and Sing 2. So
Never mind. I rescind. I
which
rescind.
Seth MacFarlane was in actually. Oh my god.
Oh, wasn't that must have been
He was the
awkward.
mouse.
Yeah. Or I say that must have been awkward, but I highly doubt any of the celebrities in that movie actually interacted with each other behind the scenes.
Definitely not. I don't know. Seth MacFarlane got to sing a Frank Sinatra song and then he got his paycheck and he
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then he
okay.
wasn't in Sing 2.
Yeah, I never got that because people kept saying they killed Mike the mouse, and I'm like, well, what happened to him? They never say that. What happened to the mouse?
He just drives away.
Is it in? Yeah, who killed the mouse?
Who killed the
It's
mouse?
crazy, insane. Oh my, I hate reading the titles for these. I swear to God. Two Persian guys try to get ladies into their sports car,
Yeah.
and it's like, I guess that's how those people act, and that's it.
Yeah, get in sports car,
That's
ladies. And that's the
yeah,
joke.
it's
Yeah.
like that.
And then the
So,
punchline is,
mm,
we really got to stop using these accents.
wow. Well, that just happened. uh, mm, oh god, this one's so I hate because he who lives in a glass house. This is another one where it's like I'm sure it happened because the guy heard the expression and is like, "Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let me make a Family Guy cutaway gag about it," and that happens.
This one
Uh,
infuriates me because I'm looking at because one thing I should mention about the Wikipedia list we're going off of does have it does have the time code like the running time of each segment, and this one says a minute and a half, which is way
Jesus,
too long.
yeah,
Like that's not me
yeah.
saying like, oh, things that are more than a minute are too long. When you watch these segments, you'll know what I mean. Some of them go on for way too long.
Yeah, yeah. This one in particular, I had a note on because it's one of those ones where I really hate Seth MacFarlane's rant voice. This is
Oh,
very specific, but whenever he's like rambling on, he's so fucking smug. I hate it
yeah.
sometimes. It's like,
See,
yeah, it's very, very
that's forget Matthew McConaughey. That's the smugness I'm talking about.
exactly, exactly. Just okay. Then sex with.
Oh, the
Number
second round of
2.
sex with.
This one had a little more, I remember. One of them was Gilbert Godfrey, which I like his voice, so
I'm a
that was
fan of
something.
Gilbert
Uh,
Gottfried, so yeah, any
yeah.
excuse to hear him was a treat.
I like the part of his sketch isn't that funny, but I think
No,
at the end he's like, "I'm the bird from Aladdin,"
I'm
and it
the
just
bird
perfectly
from
describes that.
Aladdin.
Yeah, and it just perfectly describes the type of humor this shit is like, okay, yeah, that he was in that thing.
He was the bird from
Okay.
Aladdin. That's right.
Exactly. Um, oh yeah, then also Optimus Prime is in this one.
Yeah, the
So
joke is
that's
he turns
something.
into a truck when he comes.
Now, okay. I kind of laughed at that one. It's not
Yeah,
that.
that one's funny. Again, I'm not gonna say that every single one of these was vastly unfunny. There were jokes I did laugh at. I'm just saying the
Mm.
big picture is not funny.
See, yeah, exactly. See, it was less me actively groaning at jokes, and a lot of them I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
okay."
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Oh is
very,
a
very
good way of
blunt.
putting it.
Yeah. Uh, then oh god, this one sucks. Quentin Tarantino performs a circumcision, and the joke is, do you know that Quentin Tarantino has very gory and
Yeah.
bloody movies?
Yeah.
He's gonna flash up an infant while the guy does a mid Quentin Tarantino, and I think it's an impression. I
It
don't know
it
if they
it
wouldn't get
it
him.
sounded like an impression, but yeah, you're right. Just
Yeah,
and you know what it is? It's peak somebody has seen his movies once or seen a couple of his movies and they just assume every single one of his movies is that and they just attribute that to his personality.
exactly, exactly.
Cuz look,
It just
can
Family Guy
Tarantino
has this a lot where it's
oh
like,
dude, Family Guy especially.
yeah, yeah. There's this one episode I watched like a while ago. I forget like the exact. It's like one of the mid-season ones, and it's just it pisses me off actually because there's a cool concept to it where the idea is, oh, we're gonna tell one story, but it'll be in the style of three directors. It was
Mm.
like Michael Bay,
Yeah.
Wes Anderson, and Tarantino. It's like, oh, that's a fun concept,
Yeah, cuz
but
those
it's
are
not. Oh, we're doing this in the style of their movies. It's oh, we're gonna put in like fucking references and shit to their movies, and that qualifies as
yeah.
their style. Like, no,
And
that's how their movies work.
and their
It's
quote unquote
stupid. But
style is what they've heard their styles are like. So
exactly.
Michael Bay, yeah, the Michael Bay section is like how the nostalgia critic would describe a Michael Bay movie, where it's just
Yeah.
plainly Transformers. It's like, okay, well, he made more than just Transformers, guys.
It's like the Nostalgia Critics Transformers 2007 review, where he talks about all the explosions.
Oh my god, they went like
Mm.
oh, it's
Yeah, that
classic.
is the best thing about Bayformers. It technically started the Nostalgia Critic, that
Yeah,
original review.
that's a good
Um,
point. That's a good point.
yeah. How about that? Uh, oh god, I hated this next one too. Uh, actually, wait, hold on. One more note is Quentin Tarantino has the Peter Griffin ball sack. That's all.
Yes.
But
Well,
yeah.
he does do a
Then
circumcision, so.
yeah. Whoa,
Hey how.
crazy.
Hey
Uh,
oh.
mm. This next one, oh god, the Wizard of Oz adjusted for reality. I hate this one because when I'm pulling up all the list, it has like a fucking Tin Man and Scarecrow in the default Family Guy pose, and it's so stupid looking. Like I hate it. But this is another one where it's very much like it's like that Mario one we talked about off the top. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wouldn't it be funny if like we did this classic story that's
Yeah.
nice, but ooh, what if it was literal?
Yeah.
They got a literal heart and a
He
literal brain. Like, okay,
and a
all
literal
right,
spine,
like,
and they call Kansas uneducated and full of churches. It's like, yeah, these are the exact jokes I'm sure they were making back when The Wizard of Oz actually came out in 1939.
exactly. Just, mm, it's such a basic joke. It's
Yeah.
very, very annoying.
Yeah.
But I, I got this next one. I forget the punchline, but why did the chicken cross the road? I think it was just
Yeah, and then the
did
chicken crosses the road and sees a woman, and the joke is he's gonna have sex with that woman, and then it cuts to a title card and it says to have sexual relations with your mother, and then it says Happy Valentine's Day from Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy. It's just like what?
I remember that because I was like, hold on, did it end? Is
Yeah, that's
that
what
the
I was
last
thinking. It
segment?
was
Or
the
is it?
ending, but no, and then it kept going.
Yeah. It's like okay. Um, and then there was a sex with dot
Oh,
dot
the
dot
third round.
three. This one, okay. I kind of like the toothpaste one where it's like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he does all of it, and then it's just okay. Uh, the sheep one, I didn't quite get the relation, but it's like, okay, he leaves.
I don't remember
'Cause
the
he's
sheep. Oh, the sheep. Oh,
I
because when
remember
I think of
the
the
sheep
sheep one,
one is
I'm thinking of the
yeah.
the shearing joke. But no, that's a different segment. No,
Oh, okay, that's later.
the
Well,
sheep
no,
one.
I think the last one in number 3 is the sheep just leaves
Yeah,
after he's like, "Oh, I gotta leave in the morning."
yeah, yeah.
And he leaves, and
I
it's
have a
like
meeting in the
that
morning.
one
It's
I don't
just
even
like
think that's
okay.
an animal specific joke. It's like, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
a sheep."
yeah.
It's a funny
It could have
animal,
been any
but
animal, and the punchline wouldn't have changed.
exactly, and it doesn't even
Yeah, it doesn't
it's
matter.
very random
Yeah.
equals funny in
And
that
again,
sense,
the
but
redneck
oh,
one is so obvious where it's just like, "Who's your daddy? You are, idiot. Shut up. You're grounded." It's like, uh-huh. Yeah.
whoa, it's incest.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh, Raggy.
Dimple. Mm. Oh, God, this is another one where okay, dirty vaudeville.
Oh yeah.
It's what the title says, like, "Oh, pussy."
It's vaudeville singers
Haha.
talking about the smallest pussy in town. It's like, uh-huh. That's it.
Wow. Yeah. Mm, okay. This next one,
Ugh.
Fat Jesus.
Ugh.
Uh, this one is other where it's like, okay,
This one was
he's
obnoxious. See, this
he's
one,
like
again, it could have been 5 seconds long. You just see Jesus as a fat man. That's it. That's all you need. And then looking at the time, the fucking running time, 1 minute and 33 seconds. Good lord.
Jesus. Where I'm looking, it says 2 minutes. That's even worse.
Ugh.
But oh god, it just okay. Sure. All right, buddy. They keep going like that, and eh,
Yeah, they're just like,
very
help him,
very
help the blind
obviously.
man, Jesus. And then Jesus is just like, oh, I'm so fat. I about to chili bowl my toilet or something like that. The exact fat jokes you would expect.
Yeah. Whoa. I don't even remember this next one. Dracula meets Magic
You
Johnson.
don't need to remember
This
that
is
one.
like
You know
okay.
the exact joke.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Whoa.
do you even remember who Magic Johnson is?
Um, I've definitely heard the name, and I'm sure if you say, I'll be like, "Oh, that guy,"
Yeah, so
but I
he was a
can't.
basketball player back in the 80s and 90s,
Okay.
and he
Graphic sign.
was a non-gay guy who contracted AIDS.
Ah,
Yeah,
hey,
or HIV
love
actually.
that.
It was one of the two,
Whoa.
but he survived because he's still around. He's still alive.
Huh.
Currently, 2024. Right? Is he alive? Hold on. Let me actually research this. Just
He is, and I'm checking here. Okay, still
yeah,
alive,
Magic Johnson.
64 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
Magic Johnson, you're free to come on too many movies
Yeah.
if you're
Please.
I mean, if he's open, he's open.
Yeah.
But hold on, where's the gonna pull up the list again? Yeah. There you go. Okay. Oh god, this one's so stupid. The sneeze. Oh my god, I hate this. I was gonna say something, but then I read the description and it's okay. The sneeze throw up, and then the description just says it exactly what it says on the tin. Like, god damn it,
Oh
they
god.
know. They're so aware.
They're so aware,
Damn it.
and that doesn't make it any better. Like you ever you ever watch something, you watch a review of something, and they talk about how something is self-aware, and and they treat it as a good thing. Like I'm not opposed to self-awareness in movies and shows, but there's some self-awareness that's so obnoxious that it's kind of a detriment to a movie or show. Like this
I
is an
think
example of
there's
that, of it being a
certain. I think
detriment.
there's a certain line to it
Yeah.
where it's like you could be self-aware, but you can't be self-aware and substitute for having an actual punchline to it, and
Yeah.
this is just kinda like,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't
okay.
know. I feel like I
I
hear a lot of people, they'll say at least it's self-aware, and a lot of when they say that to when they attribute that to movies and shows, to me that's more of a bad thing because it's like,
I
okay,
think it's annoying because
yeah.
I'll be aware they're doing something shitty, and instead of actually having a punchline or something to elevate that, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we know this thing's kinda lazy. We're gonna keep doing it, though," and
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
"Okay."
Again, I'm not opposed to self-awareness. I'm sure it can be done properly. But again, when it's done properly. That's not every
I think it
time.
can be done very well, but
Yeah.
it's often, I think it's often just a lazy like
Yeah.
hold to use now because like,
Exactly.
well, at least we're self-aware,
Yeah,
but we
exactly.
know we're lazy. Like, okay,
Yeah, exactly.
all right.
I
Like, you can know what you are and still be shit, guys.
yeah.
Like, come on,
I feel like
kind of free
that's
pass.
just something I've thought about for years now, and I've never heard anybody. Not that I've never heard people bring it up. It's just that I feel like we tend to use self awareness as an excuse more often than not, and it's just like, all right,
Yeah,
let's be aware of when it's used properly and when it's not used properly, and this is a very good example of this is not being used properly.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, that's that one. Gross visual moving forward. Oh, I swear to God, I hate these titles so much.
We're
Just shut up.
almost done,
The
folks.
settlers' first attempt to buy Manhattan from the Indians. Can you guess what happens in that particular sketch?
Oh yeah, I'm rereading it. Yeah, they attempt to give beads to the Indians, but here's the joke. They're anal beads. So they say like, "Oh, these
Whoa.
beads, they smell terrible." It's like, "Oh, haha, they were up somebody's butt."
Haha.
Yeah, it's just okay.
Whoa. Uh,
Moving on.
where's my list? Oh, the next one is 4 years of Entourage in 10 seconds. The only okay, it's funny. I was gonna be like, well, I only know Entourage from this, and then I realized, oh wait, I only know Entourage because there's another Family Guy joke about it. So it's like, okay,
Really?
that
Which one is that? Is that
because
the Jeremy Piven one
it's
where
in
it's
the
like you wouldn't
Family
like
Guy
me when I'm angry. I don't like you now.
No, that's a different one. But no, I'm
Okay.
thinking of in there's one Family Guy song where Stewie's thinking about people he doesn't like, and there's one where it's like one of the lines is and every bleeding member of the cast of Entourage, and it's like, okay, I
Yeah.
guess the Family Guy staff's beefing
I guess they
with
don't
the
like
cast of
Entourage, a show I've never
Yeah.
watched. So
I know nothing about the show
yeah,
except that I guess Stewie Griffin hates it.
yeah.
So,
Well, if Stewie
all
Griffin
right.
hates it, then I hate it too.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, hmm, but yeah, that one was bad. A shocker. Ooh. Get my list more up. Then okay. Oh God, God, this one's so bad. Tara Reid is not looking so good lately.
So here's the
The joke is
weird
that
thing.
she looks ugly.
Yeah, here's the weird thing about this one. So this is kind of an example. So obviously we've been saying some of these are examples of some of these are segments where the joke is a celebrity we're not familiar with, and you can only really get it if you know the celebrity. But here's the weird thing. I know who Tara Reid is, but I don't get the joke.
Yeah, I don't. Oh my God! Again, I only know her from another Family Guy joke, so that's funny.
Yeah.
But uh, they call her like trash or something in another episode, and that's a thing.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know. I guess it's that she's ugly, but I don't know. I don't know anything
I
about her
don't
to
think
say.
so. She seems because I have seen her in movies, and she's conventionally attractive blonde woman from the 2000s.
Yeah, that's not like something to go against for
Yeah,
that. I don't know. Some of these
she's
I
not a
theorize Family Guy like staff just has
yeah
a specific grudge with Celebrity of the Week. So like, all right, you know what? I'm pissed. I'm gonna my revenge by putting her in a Family Guy cutaway gag.
yeah
That's what these feel like. It's like
yeah
it's very specific beef in
yeah.
some instances. But yeah, um, I'll go around the final chunk now. I
We're
didn't
in the
think we'd
final
have a lot.
few. There were 50 of these. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I did not think we'd have a lot to say about most of these, but small talk with Aunt Helen. This one is just another self-explanatory one.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, uh, it's awkward small talk, and
and he talks about putting his
that's it.
fist up his girlfriend's ass in front of his
Like,
grandma
oh, that's
or
not
aunt, I should
that's
say.
not a social thing you'd say
Mm,
to a relative. What? Oh,
yeah,
that's wacky
yeah,
that happened.
yeah,
I don't even okay, fuck. I've been saying this a lot, but I don't even remember this one. Mary Antoinette's
yeah.
notepad.
Marie Antoinette's
I just
notepad. So Marie Antoinette, who was the wife of one of the King Louis of France. I forget which one. The one that when they had the French Revolution and they overthrew the monarchy, and Marie Antoinette famously said, "Let them eat cake." But then the joke is she's writing down on a notepad like what she's gonna say, and it says, "Let them eat shit," and what was the other one? Like, "Let them eat my
Eh.
pussy" or something like that. I don't know.
Whoa.
Yeah.
She can't say that. That's a naughty word.
Well, this is one where
Ruh-roh.
there's no dialogue. It's literally all visual.
Wow.
Yeah.
Commendable.
Yeah, commendable for that.
It broke new ground. Mm, mm. This one was okay. Next one
Ugh.
on the last two. Sheep shearing. This one I'll admit, I think in execution, it's another where if it were like 10 seconds, it'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like it's a sheep, and he gets a kink out of getting like shaved of his wool.
Yeah.
That's like okay, that's a stupid joke. But if you played that for like a quick segment, that'd be kind of funny. But you gotta go like 2 minutes of him being like, "We're gonna shave," and then he goes, "Yeah, yeah." It's horny, and he's like, "Don't do." Then he stops, and the guy's like, "I can't do this," and he's like, "What do you mean? I'm not doing anything."
Yeah.
It's like, "Okay, I'll do it," and then he does it again. He's like, "Ah," and then the same thing happens, and it repeats a bunch. It's like, okay,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
funny.
It would have been funnier at 10 seconds. The segment is a minute and 45 seconds.
Literally, it just oh my god, I get it.
Yeah.
They keep going, and this last one I think is the perfect embodiment of what this series of cartoons is like.
Mm-hmm.
Very aptly titled. What happens if you feed a dog chocolate while he wears a tinfoil hat in the microwave? And in this segment, we see a dog being fed chocolate while he wears a tinfoil hat in a microwave. Let's just say it doesn't go great. And then he gets like,
Everything
whoa,
explodes.
and it ends.
Yeah, and then Will
Yeah.
Wheaton cameos at the end saying, "This was a bad idea." It's like, you're right. This really does encapsulate everything wrong with this thing. The Seth MacFarlane's cavalcade of cartoon comedy. You have the most random joke that isn't really a joke. You have random celebrity cameo. You have it goes on for way too long. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is everything. I think this was the last one, by the way. When I
It
was
was,
watching
they,
it.
like, end on this in both
Yeah,
orders, and it's like, really?"
yeah,
Okay, but
yeah.
it's like, alright.
And that's
Uh,
all 50. It's ironic that there were 50 of these on here because that kind of coincides with the 50 of the greatest cartoons VHS tape that I talked about
oh,
a
shit.
bunch of episodes ago, because
I
that
I
also
guess
had
it
50
does. Oh my
cartoons.
god.
Well,
Huh.
this one did not have 50 of the greatest cartoons. You know what? Even though 50 of the greatest cartoons VHS tape had a bunch of cartoons I did not like, I can name a handful of ones I actually did like. I can't name more than 2 segments in this that I actually laughed at
I think
unironically.
everyone I liked had an asterisk beside it.
Mm,
It was like, "Oh, well, it's funny if it were this,"
yeah.
or, "It could have been good if they cut it down." Like, it's all of them were like that for me.
Yeah.
They're just kinda like, "Alright." Very honestly, if they did this, like, maybe a decade later or something, it probably would've had much more prominence. Because now it's like I can't pinpoint exactly one, but you know the exact type of thing. Family Guy, like, has got this resurgence where random cutaways
Yeah. I
and, like,
I've
compilations of jokes. It's
yeah.
like, everyone loves Family Guy. Cut a comp
Yeah, the Family Guy funny compilations. Like, I've succumbed to the algorithm and actually watched those
cuts
myself too.
no, 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 no. The precursor to that.
So, well, is there anything else we have to say about Seth MacFarlane's cavalcade of cartoon comedy, uncensored? Because I just have one last thing to talk about with the Blu-ray. Unless you have something.
Um, yeah, I don't have much like specific notes otherwise. The one thing is we went over obviously we went over literally every short
Yeah.
specific with that. The one the one thing I do want to note is the first time Hal, perchance, were you ever an avid viewer of the mysterious Mr. Enter? This
Uh,
uh,
no. I'm familiar with who Mr. Enter is. I never watched him
yeah.
back in his heyday. I haven't watched him nowadays just because I don't know, because I just didn't grow up watching him. So I've never, I
Mm,
even after some of his stints where he gets brought up again, I've never even checked out the videos that are, you know, the ones I'm talking about, the Turning Red review, the
yeah, the
fucking
9/11 turning red thing.
yeah,
Everyone knows that.
yeah.
It's
Everyone knows that. I've never
see
actually watched it, but I am familiar with it.
See, it's funny. In a way, he was like one of it's kind of funny. I think a lot of his videos are misguided, and I don't agree with a lot of what he says. But it's
Hmm.
weird because in a way that a lot of what he covered was my first step into actually caring about like internet criticism.
Yeah.
Because stuff I watched from it, it'd be like, oh wow, this modern SpongeBob episode sucks. And I'm like, wow, people think that?
Hmm.
People hate this? And I was like, from there I was like, okay, I guess this is what people are interested in. I watched videos from that. But point is, I bring him up because he's the reason I even heard of Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of cartoon comedy.
Hmm.
And that video is really funny to me because he essentially just did what we did just now, go for every short
Yeah.
and like complain about it. But it's in that like you know the type of way, that over exaggerated
Yeah.
internet persona where they have to yell and scream
Yeah.
over every little thing. And it's very funny because it's like I agree this is dog shit, but also it's like I think if you're yelling about the short Fred Flintstone takes a shit, you're kind of just giving it what it wants, you know?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
it's like a lot of these shorts I feel are designed to piss people off. So the
Yeah.
fact that you have it this over the top, try hard reaction, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, you just proved its point.
At this
And it's
point,
like,
yeah, no, I agree. Like we were saying at the
mm,
beginning, like it's not funny, but at the same time, I'm not angry that I watched this. I knew
no,
exactly what I was
no.
getting myself into when I put on Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy Uncensored in my Blu-ray player. So,
Yeah, if anything, I think it's less annoying and more just sad because, like,
yeah.
think of how many we went through here that are just they could be funny, but they all just want to be so try hard and be like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, we're hip. We
Yeah.
know all these cool celebrities. We're Family Guy.
Think
We
about
know what we're doing." And it's like,
think about how many we
I don't
went
know.
through, and the first thing you said before you even said the title of the cartoon, you said, "Oh, this one sucked." Like,
Exactly. I was going up to, I was like, "Oh God, not this one
yeah, oh,
or
this
that."
one.
It's like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I get it for probably at least half because there's just so many. You're like, okay,
yeah,
that's odd.
uh,
Keep going and repeating and
yeah, exactly,
not it's
exactly. Like,
so
I want to say though,
tough.
one of the last few things. Well, the place I did find this, I guess, is pretty funny. I found this at a flea market last summer. The very same flea market I found my Star Wars Holiday Special DVD at. So that flea market, I'm always
Oh,
trying to find the next Star Wars Holiday Special find where I find something just as impactful to me as the Star Wars Holiday Special on DVD. But no, I found
is
Seth
this
MacFarlane's.
more impactful than the Star Wars Holiday Special?
No, 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 no,
Damn,
no.
we got close.
We
We
got
got close.
close. The other thing
Uh,
I want to mention is I looked at the bonus features because I was really curious. Which, by the way, the menu on this thing fucking sucks because it's the menu is just a single image of all the different Family Guy characters, like all the characters, they're in the default Family
yeah.
Guy poses. Um, and then there's like this bright blue sky behind them, and that's where all the selections for like play, scene selection, special features are. But the sky is light blue, and then the text is light blue, so you can't fucking see the options to press
Oh,
play. It
terrible. That
it's
sucks.
so obnoxious.
Like, oh, I hate that. It's like I don't even gotta do much for those stock DVD menus. Like, you just
Yeah.
gotta make sure you got everything. But okay,
Yeah. But anyway,
somehow people find a way.
yeah.
Sometimes.
But anyway, the other
Uh,
thing I wanted to mention is that in the special features, they have a red carpet premiere for the Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy. Um, And all it is it just looked like they rented out some bar and lounge in Los Angeles, put a red carpet in front of there, and a bunch of Family Guy alum showed up to it, and were just being interviewed by people, being like, "Oh, this is the premiere of Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy," and everyone's most likely drunk and just saying whatever the fuck they want, and it's really cringy and embarrassing. I'm wondering if there's like a YouTube upload of it. I highly recommend people look it up. Like, just look up Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy red carpet premiere. You'll probably find it.
I think the fact that they're trying to do a red carpet premiere for a series of internet shorts tells you the
and it was really weird because there were times where they would play clips from the shorts, and then they would cut to people laughing, and they're pretending like the people are actually watching it, and then they also put in stock audience laughter. I don't think it was the kind of audience laughter you would hear in one of those bajillion Disney Channel sitcoms, but you know exactly the kinds of laugh tracks you would hear in those. It was almost that. I think they were smart enough not to play those, but they still sounded like stock sound effect audience laughter, which was really embarrassing because they couldn't even get people to naturally laugh at these fucking cartoons.
Yeah. I imagine that being like so awkward. It's like a bunch of people gathering around, and it's 50 cutaway gags in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
And you gotta just
just gotta sit and take it.
Yeah. This was made for 12-year-old Family Guy fans, and I think no one else. Well, just that very.
And as somebody who's not a 12-year-old Family Guy fan, I'm not keeping this in the collection, unfortunately.
Oh man.
So.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, well, I would not own it on a
you wouldn't either.
Or even an occasional VHS release.
No, not even that. No. So look at that. We spent more than an hour talking about Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy. I'm sure it's
very funny. I thought this was just gonna be like, oh, I don't know if I made a good pick. Did I like make something boring? No. I was like, oh, okay, no, I guess. No. We had a lot on this one. Wow.
No, hey, listen, there are no boring picks. Even the boring movies we've talked about on the podcast have something interesting to talk about.
It's very true. You know, as much as I didn't like the duck meet the parents sketch, I did like Howard the duck. Ooh, wow.
Transition.
So smart. Yeah.
To Howard the duck.
Okay. Howard the duck. If you don't mind, I'm going to lead this one a little bit because I have some lore behind me in this movie, and I find it very interesting.
So take the stage, dude.
I remember.
This is all you.
Thank you. But anyway, I remember very specifically. Would have been like late 2020. Yeah, it would have been literally the last day of 2020. I saw that. Oh no, Howard the Duck is gonna leave Netflix, Canadian Netflix. I was like, oh man. I gotta watch it, and I was like, and I just started out, very simply enough, and I watched the movie, get certain reactions you might expect because it's Howard the Duck, and I was like, I remember when I was rating it, I was like, okay, well this movie's ass, but I think it's very funny, so I randomly was like, okay, I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10, and I give it that 7, and then like a year passes, it's like 2021, and one of my friends is when I like. Most of my Letterboxd mutuals, I'm talking to them on our Discord or whatever, and they randomly go, hey, why did you give Howard the Duck a 7? You check Letterboxd, like, oh, people hate this movie. It's terrible. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's pretty good. And I'm like, and then eventually this led to something really funny where shortly after this, I accidentally caused a Howard the Duck watch party with a bunch of my friends where people watched it. And the funniest thing was I led this whole brigade, and I didn't even actually join VC for more than 10 minutes. So I gaslit my friends into watching Howard the Duck, and they all hated it. And from there, I've been known as the Howard the Duck guy of my friend group. And it's so funny, actually. See, I'm really glad you picked this, Hal,
Mm.
because I was like, I pitched this to Anthony. I was like, Anthony, can we do Howard the Duck on CampyCast? And the one time I asked him, he very bluntly was like, I'm not fucking rewatching that. So it's like, you know,
Uh,
um, people are not a fan of this movie per se. And honestly, I joke around a lot, but I will be as dead ass as I can right now. I think Howard the Duck's reputation is extremely unjustified because there are so
mm.
many people who are like, "Wah, it's gross. Wah, it's boring. Wah, it's not fun." And it's like, really, this is your line for a not fun superhero movie. Like, you can gas up anything else. You could be like, "Oh, this is fun." Oh, what, like, fucking, I'm blanking on examples, but, although Room is fun. Oh, Faust is fun, but Howard? No, can't be Precious Howard the Duck. It's not fun. Like, it really, really pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie. I hate it. So,
Now
but what
listen,
did you think, Hal?
listen.
Howard the Duck.
Don't you badmouth Faust in this house.
Oh no, I love Faust. I'm just
Okay,
saying,
good,
like,
good, good. Yeah.
Howard deserves a similar rep, and it never gets it.
You know what?
Very,
No, I'll be
very
completely
disappointing.
fair, because yes, my I was familiar with Howard the Duck because obviously I saw the Nostalgia Critic episode years and years and years ago. I meant to rewatch that before we recorded today. I completely forgot to rewatch that
Okay.
Nostalgia Critic video. But I do remember him being pissed off in that video, like some of the angriest I've ever seen him, and he's talking about Howard the Duck. Now, do I think this is a good movie? No, it sucks.
It's fucking
But
terrible. That's why I love it.
yes,
It's
but
so
I think I am siding a little more with you. Where is it the worst thing I've ever seen? No, absolutely not. This is not.
definitely
This
not.
is not even the top 100 worst things I've ever seen. Like I've
Nowhere near.
yeah,
No.
no. This is not a so unbelievably terrible or boring film. Let me put it this way. It's not boring. I was never bored necessarily. Like sometimes it dragged a little, but I was not bored per se. I was definitely intrigued with where it was going. Um and a lot of the stuff it pulls is odd. And I think yeah, because I remember when the Nostalgia Critic was talking about it, how he's going like, this is stupid. This is so stupid." And it's like, okay, I kind of want it to be stupid though, because then that's vastly more entertaining to me, you know? Like I'm fine with it not making sense. I'm fine with this stupid Duckman being transported to Earth and he has to live in fucking Cleveland, Ohio for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the bizarre interactions he has, and I'm fine with it being a PG rated film. And then there's a lot of stuff that would not fly today in a PG family film.
Nah, not at all. Even from like the first 5 minutes,
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. If someone knows anything about Howard the Duck, you know it has duck tits, and I think
yes,
that's very funny.
that's the
Your
big
first instinct about it.
that was the big thing that I was expecting was the duck tits. I saw them; they were gross
Mhm.
because they're fucking duck
Yeah.
tits. But even still, was a lot more things that I don't often hear people talk about that are arguably weirder than the duck tits. Like the Raiders of the Lost Ark poster is called Breeders of the Lost Stork, and that caught me off guard way more than the duck tits did. I was like, what do they mean, Breeders of the Lost Stork? What? There's
Where
even
did the stork go?
yeah,
Oh.
exactly. And then there was the duck condom.
Yeah, so stupid. Just from that, I will give the movie this. It probably has one of the funniest like openings of anything to me. Because first of all, that brief VC I was in, and I remember everyone laughed at the opening where they said, "George Lucas presents."
Yeah.
and it's not even a joke. It's like, oh, he got his hand in this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go, George.
Yeah.
You go, girl. But that's funny. But then like immediately, almost immediately, get those like fuck. Howard has these parody posters in his room, and there's just the worst puns possible. But I love shitty puns.
Yeah.
It's
The
great.
the
Like
fucking
rolling egg
the fucking
and the
Flashdance
all the
poster, and it says Splash Dance.
yeah yeah yeah. And then very quickly after that, he gets very into the action. I'll say because you have
Yeah.
Howard. He's sitting there. He pulls out his Playboy, or should I say Play Duck magazine, which is very funny. Look at him,
Yeah.
a goofy guy. But then he very quickly gets whisked into the other world, and it's very funny because I think a large reason for why I find this movie funny is because just can look at Howard for long enough and I'll laugh. He's such a stupid fucking looking guy.
Well,
He's like the effect isn't even terrible, but he has the same like
yeah.
5 sort of monotone faces, and it's like,
If even
come on.
that, if even
Okay.
5. I think that's let's talk
This
about
is
the costume. Because yes, the Howard the Duck puppet on its own doesn't look terrible. It actually is pretty good, all things considered, except for when he has to emote. Then it's absolute dog shit because he only has like one expression.
you barely get any emotion out of him, which
Yeah.
is for I mean for a main character that's kind of
Yeah.
important.
If I could wear my
But
critic hat for a second when talking about this movie, yes, your main character needs to have a wide array of emotions because otherwise, how are you supposed to relate to him?
mhm. Yeah, I think there's also the combine of his voice that
Mm.
makes it even funnier. Like such a
His
dope,
voice sounded a
like
lot like Steve Buscemi at times.
oh, I can see that actually.
It's not Steve
Uh,
Buscemi, but I kind of wish it was, you know?
mm, yeah. Well, I'm looking up his filmography. I guess this is apparently Ed Gale. Well, it has a very limited filmography, but he's listed as Elf in Polar Express, and
What a career.
yeah, that's other stuff. I don't know. Yeah, he was the stunt double for the Leprechaun in Leprechaun 3. So that's something.
Yeah. Well,
And then
that's
most of these are
so
just
Ed
random
Gale
movies no one
did
gives
the
a shit about.
body for Howard the Duck, but then I'm noticing the voice was done by Chip Zien or Zion.
Hmm.
And then if you pay attention to the credits, which this is the funniest part, in the credits, like 7 or 8 different people are actually credited as Howard the Duck, which Ed is one of them, Chip is one of them, and then there's like 7 or 8 other people listed as well, and they all say like Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck. They don't say
Yeah.
how they play Howard the Duck. But yeah, if I had to take a guess, I'd say Ed Gale did the body for
Hmm.
Howard, and then Chip, who he is credited as the voice of Howard, did the voice.
Hmm. I like to imagine it's how like in Spider-Man 2 they had like 6 or so puppeteers for all Doc Ock's arms. Imagine it's like that, but for every individual part of Howard in
he's
like
just
an
a
arm puppet.
he's just a Voltron duck.
They had a guy for the beak that to operate that.
Well, that guy who did the beak did a terrible job.
Mm. Oh, he didn't make a very
No.
emotive beak
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I just love how quickly this movie just gets into the shit. Like it
It
starts Howard
is.
Zapden
Yeah.
and just makes such a sudden, strong first impression.
Yeah.
The I think the best expression is if you don't find this movie, I know some people find it painful, and I think they're a little bit of a pussy, quite frankly, because like why you can't handle Howard. But point is, some people think it's like torturous in a way I'll never understand. But I think the most accurate way to describe it is just actually, what I think what you said in your review. It's like you said you looked at it slightly tilted, furrow browed, a
Yeah.
mouth agape,
Yes.
25%. Like that slight confusion. I think
Yes.
carries the entire time
Yeah.
because gotta just once the plot starts really getting moving, it's like excuse me?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, a
Yeah.
lot of it's just, like I'm just so baffled by many.
Baffling.
I mean, many of the decisions made.
Yeah, it's not
But
the craziest film I've ever seen, but it is certainly up there because it has segments that are baffling and crazy. Yeah, no, I
I
would
think
not.
the fact that it plays it straight for the most part as
Sure.
it's going
Yeah,
absurd definitely
I think
plays
that
a
does
part in
add to
that.
that does add
Like
to the absurdness. You're right. Because like
like
there,
how there's never a moment where Howard like winks at the audience and goes, "Well, that just happened." Like no,
right?
this is like entirely just off the cuff.
Yeah,
Especially like that third act or so. That just so weird.
it's so off the
But
rails by the third act. Yes, where
mhm.
they're fighting the fucking scorpion crab demon monsters that come out of Jeffrey Jones. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I'm fine with bizarre because some of my favorite film experiences are just watching a movie act all bizarre and just go all out and be crazy and weird. I'm fine with absurd, weird cinema. I think that can lead to really entertaining films. Um,
Definitely. Uh,
whether intentionally or not, I want to make that clear because there are plenty of films that are unintentionally bizarre, and that I would still equate to being entertaining. Um,
well, it's the whole genre of so bad it's good. It's built
yeah,
on stuff like that.
exactly,
So
exactly, and that's what this movie is to me. It's bizarre. It's so stupid, but that's why I was. It's weird to say that I was enjoying it, but again, I wasn't hating. I wasn't like this was not like Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of cartoon comedy where I was groaning after a while. I was never hating my experience watching it. Like you say your friends akin this to torture. I wouldn't go that far. Like I've seen films that are
no, I
torturous to
wouldn't at
get
all.
through.
It's like
Yeah. It's bad.
it's not even that I blame people for thinking that. I just
Yeah.
feel like you can name a lot of movies of similar sensibility to this, where it's like, oh, people find it fun for how weird it is, how absurd it is. Yet, but when Howard the Duck does it, it's like a hated,
Mhm.
universally reviled
Yeah.
experience where people are like, "This is one of the worst movies ever made," and I'm like, "Well, maybe in 1986 it was, but like
Sure.
we've seen way worse
Oh,
shit,
well,
buddy. Come
see, that's
come on,
something that I've thought about with the nostalgia critic. How he says like, "Oh, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen." It's like, yeah, back in 1986, that absolutely would have been one of the stupidest movies to come out in '86. I completely buy that. But 1986 was nearly 40 years ago. A lot of other movies have happened
exactly.
since then. It's why I always think about this one quote from Rich Evans of Red Letter Media, how he
Mhm.
says to him the worst film he's ever seen, and he says this relative to its budget, he says would be Attack of the Clones. Which, okay, in fairness, if that's what he thinks, fine. But to me, when I think of Attack of the Clones, I think it's a bad film. But again, even relative to its budget, that is not the worst film I've ever seen relative to Attack of the Clones'
Definitely not
budget.
at this point.
No.
Like after all the slop and pumped out blockbusters that just come
Exactly.
out like that.
Yeah. I was thinking
Just
about this because, to bring up Nostalgia Critic again, this is also something I've thought about. I don't know if you remember, this was nearly a decade ago when he was doing editorials a lot more, and he made a video talking about the dark age of cinema, and he talked about how movies from
ooh, wait, I remember that
yeah
video.
the movies
It's
from between
so
19
funny. He says like the mid '90s, like his
he
dark
says like
point of cinema.
1996 to 2001 he considers the dark age of cinema, more specifically the summer blockbuster era, because that's when stuff like
Mm,
Independence Day came out, Godzilla came out, fucking Wild Wild West came out, Space Jam, Batman and
mhm,
Robin, like all these films that
mm.
notoriously are terrible slash not highly regarded,
Yeah. Yeah.
depending on
Mm.
arguably. I feel like some of those are straight up bad. I will completely agree with stuff like Batman and Robin, Space Jam, Godzilla. Those are not good films. Whether or not I enjoy those, like I enjoy Space Jam, and I do remember having some fun with Batman and Robin. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it.
Batman and Robin is an interesting case. I'm glad you bring up Doug Walker for that, because there's another one where I think the perspective of it is really interesting, because you watch Doug Walker's original Batman and Robin review, and that stayed around because it has the Bat credit card.
Yeah.
They had the balls, the whole speech.
To give one of the greatest superheroes
of all time a Bat credit card.
Rape my childhood, will you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's such an interesting review to look back on now, because sure, maybe in 1997 people were that negative towards Batman or Robin. Maybe that was the perspective of the time.
Yeah.
But now things have evolved so much where if you mention Batman and Robin, people think of it as that funny Batman movie that people like ironically meme on for like ice puns.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, I just think it's interesting to look at it from that perspective, how like stuff that we consider like funny or just generic bad now, at the time people were like, no, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin was so bad. And I'll give him credit. I think growing up in that era probably would have helped that, because there was like an 8-year gap between Batman and Robin and when the Nolan stuff started.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
No,
I'm sure in that time.
And it's why I understand why Rich Evans says Attack of the Clones is the worst thing he's ever seen relative to the budget, because he would have been young enough to experience when the prequels were first coming out and how kind of messy that whole era was with the prequels. It's like, I get it. I think it's because we are experiencing a whole nother era of cinema, and we didn't grow up with the late 90s, early 2000s. Like I grew up in the early 2000s, but I wasn't going to the cinema every week watching whatever was new. Like I did not see a bunch of those movies in the cinema.
Infant Hal did not go see Phantom Menace in theaters.
No,
to say.
No, I did not. I'm sorry. I had to wait until last weekend to go see Phantom Menace in theaters.
Yeah.
So my long-winded point is that Howard the Duck is one of those films that's often seen as one of the worst superhero movies ever made. And now that I've finally watched it for real, not through the Nostalgia Critic review or some other internet reviewer's review of it, I can say wholeheartedly, this isn't even the worst thing ever. Like it's not. It's really
definitely not. I don't think.
I definitely think there are other movies I like more, ironically, but I can't say this is one that was painful to sit through. I did have some fun. Again, like I said, it's not boring most of the time. There are little stints towards the middle where it did get a little samey, and I'm like, this isn't as fun. But nothing that actively ruined the whole experience or made me miserable experiencing it. No, this was not a miserable experience.
Definitely not for me.
Yeah.
But
the pacing.
Yeah, I get that whole perspective. Yeah. I think like Tanaka, you said that some parts dragged a little more. I think for me the most like, I guess, unironic complaint I have of this that actually affects me is this movie has really, really weird pacing in the way that it actually goes about.
The pacing's horrible.
Because there's like the first, I want to rough it and say like 40-50 minutes or so where it's like Howard lands on Earth, he shows up his quack foo, a very iconic bit there. Look at him, he's adorable. And then he meets the girl played by Leah Thompson 1 year after Back to the Future. Very funny. And there's just a bunch of bits there where he's trying to adjust to the world, find a job, very, very wacky stuff.
He works at a
bathhouse, then they're like
brothel.
Yeah, that part's a little weird. I don't get what they're going for there. They just the point is, after a while, they're like, "Oh well, it's been nice knowing you, Howard. I can't believe you got to go back to Duck World." And they do this like 45 minutes left, and I can only assume some guy was like, "Oh shit, we got like an hour left to fill out. Hold on." And from there, the movie takes this complete pivot in the other direction, where it's like all this weird science stuff with like Jeffrey Jones and all of it's like it makes such a turn in the other direction that I find it funny, but I can't help but just be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, that's a little weird that you
Yeah.
went
They
all the way
were not
the other way.
introduced to
There's
Jeffrey
committed.
Jones and the villain like until an hour into the movie, cuz Jeffrey Jones is technically the villain, but he's also not, because he plays Dr. Jennings,
Mhm.
but then he's possessed by the space scorpion demon thing that is the villain. And again, that's not
Mhm.
introduced until an hour into the movie. Which, again, if we're judging this as an actual movie, that's not how you pace things. That's not how you. That's not how you write or direct a film.
Definitely not,
That's
no.
bad. That's not a good thing. Like, which is funny because I feel like I've been watching a
Yeah.
lot of movies recently where the villain isn't introduced until an hour into the movie, like Godzilla X Kong and Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. So,
Mm.
um, so yeah, again, judging it as a real movie, that's where it fails. But because I was expecting the worst thing in the world, like, should I really be mad at stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It I don't know, I've seen this, like this was my 3rd viewing going into this one, so it's kinda I knew what I was getting into with
Mm-hmm.
this, and I think it's just even when you do know that, it's still just kinda like, oh, it's very off-putting still in a
Yeah.
lot
Which,
of senses, even if you're familiar with what happens. I will say, I think people focus on the wrong confusing aspects. Like, if you hear someone talk about this movie, their main thing is like, "Whoa," the obviously the duck tits, but then they're like, "Whoa, human on duck relationship? Wow, that's so weird. The
yeah.
woman was gonna fuck the duck? That's crazy." And it's like, "Okay, well,
Well,
I
I
wouldn't
think,
even call that the most weird thing this movie
no,
does."
you know
So
what?
it's like,
That's a good
"Okay."
point. It's not even the weirdest thing because I think the movie understands that it's weird.
Yeah, no, like, that's the whole joke of it,
That's the
that
joke,
Howard's like,
exactly.
"Whoa, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm a duck."
Yeah.
Uh,
I will say this. I want to talk about, because we were talking about the we were talking about the losing words. Okay. I do want to say we
Howard's been stealing your words from you.
Howard's been stealing my brain cells. Anyway,
Mm.
I wanted to say, because we were talking about the actual Howard puppet earlier, I do want to kind of also talk about the actual special effects, which, because George Lucas produced this, they're done by Industrial Light and Magic. They're honestly pretty damn good most of the time. Like, again, we were saying the actual puppet head is awful and articulating, but the puppet itself is
Mm.
impressive. The main villain, the space demon scorpion thing, when it actually shows its true form, is like this really elaborately stop motion effect
Yeah.
that's really cool looking and actually blends in pretty all right. Maybe that was just because of the Blu-ray transfer I watched this on. Um, but it looks pretty freaking phenomenal until it starts speaking, and then the lip syncing is off and it looks like dog shit. But when it's not talking, it looks great.
It's kinda funny, a lot of this stuff, like, it's not bad in stills, but when you actually see some of it in motion,
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
then
"Okay, that's a little."
when you see Jeffrey Jones all kind of lit up with like this weird after effects and he starts doing laser eyes, that looks bad for the time. And then he uses the force on Howard and Howard's spinning around on the ceiling and it looks bad. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's when the special effects don't look good. But they do have that weird 80s charm that I do like from that era. So I'm willing to forgive that.
Yeah. And I excuse a lot of it because,
Hmm.
like, if a movie like this has shitty effects, it's like, okay, well, at least it fits with, like, the vibe of it and
Yeah.
the charm. Except here, it's like this weird thing where, like, you can see the effort, but also it's like, yeah, like you said, it's like actually seeing something. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a little odd.
But there are genuinely
Um,
great special effects in this movie. Like I'm saying, like the 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 monster, like it actually looks really good.
yeah, yeah. Oh, God, Howard's making me fucking lose my train of thought. I swear to
No, but that's the
God.
thing.
Yeah.
I think I can confidently say, I will definitely say this is not the worst thing I've talked about on the podcast.
Oh
It's
god, you've talked about, like, a lot of shitty things
I've
on there.
talked about a
I'd
ton
be
of shitty things.
surprised if it got, like, this
No,
was the lowest low.
no.
But
Because
yeah.
I was thinking I would get something out of this. I can't say this connected with me as much as maybe it connected with you, ironically, but I
Mhm.
can't say I had a bad time. And I think this is on the wheel. So the wheel, we every Saturday we do wheel nights, which I'm going to be doing after I'm done
Mhm.
recording this episode, and we spin the wheel and land on whatever crap we land on. I believe this is on there. Um, so
I really hope it lands on Howard tonight because the idea of you watching this like twice in the
twice
span
in,
of a couple days is really funny to me.
I made that joke.
Come on.
I made that joke.
Mm.
I told William, I was like, I I believe Howard the Duck is still on the wheel. Imagine we land on it Saturday. He never said anything. So knowing William, my go-to paranoia is to assume that's what he's just going to just straight up make us watch it tonight. But
He's gonna rig the wheel.
we've
It's
done
like
we've rigged the wheel plenty of times. We don't even spin it. Or we'll spin and we land on something stupid, and he's just like, "Fuck it, we're watching this." So
that's funny.
I can imagine it, but it may not be. Who knows? Who knows? I mean,
Maybe.
if you're listening to this, then we already watched something on Saturday, so we'll know by the time this episode's out.
I'm like The Simpsons. I predicted wheel night.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But I guess back more so to the movie. I think my favorite like chunks of stuff is there's this one part that goes on for a really long time where they're at the diner and it's just like there's this weird detour where like Howard keeps like the slapstick thing where Howard keeps going around and Jeffrey Jones who's there he's just like it's really funny when he's possessed he looks so like disheveled and tired and it's a really like for me it was a really funny like little bit there. And it just keeps like again, there's another like really weird, again, a really odd like just detour in that sense there. And by the time you actually get to the climax of the whole creature and everything, and just like okay, even I as a Howard head sort of checks out by this point because it's like, well, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Nearly 2 hours, Howard's like riding a mini plane or whatever with the guy from Shawshank. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like all right,
Yeah, that
so
was weird how they escape the cops and they're like, "All right, we got to find an escape plan. Should we steal a cop car?" And they're like, "No, let's build a plane and escape that way." Again,
I can
I'll
only assume whoever did that just thought the visual of like the tiny little duck riding the plane looked funny, and they're like, "Ah, let's go with that."
yeah,
So
I'll
like,
give the movie
so
this. I would never have predicted that. That's how they escape the cops is flying in a
no
plane.
one could predict this movie. It just
That's the thing.
or
Like even it's been years since I saw the Nostalgia Critic video. I did not remember the plane part. So when they're flying the plane,
mhm.
I was like, okay, movie, I'll give you that one.
It's funny. I've never seen that Nostalgia Critic review, but I could like predict the exact bits he'd make. Like he definitely like I'll pick a random section.
Hmm.
Like what? He did that, and he like yeah he's like does a big scream, especially that era of Nostalgia Critic.
Why
Like
does it look like
I think that early
Cleveland?
stuff is charming, but he definitely has a formula. And that's
Yeah,
why he's so
yeah.
good,
Again,
man.
a
Yeah.
lot of those early videos, even when I was watching them for the first time, and he would complain about a lot of the weird stuff that would happen in movies. I remember thinking like, is this really worth complaining about? Because this is kind of funny. But he would treat it as like the worst thing ever. Whether or not he still believes those, I have no idea. But that was something that always kind of weirded me out about those early videos. How
It's a weird thing you gotta give the benefit of the doubt
yeah,
because again, it's weird to think a lot of those Nostalgia Critic videos are fucking decades old now, which
exactly. And
is
like
really weird to think about.
yeah, and
But
like we were saying,
yeah.
he probably just held whatever people were saying back in 1986 about that movie. It's like, yeah, back in
Yeah.
1986, I can see this being the weirdest fucking movie ever. But considering the movies we get now, not saying that every movie is terrible, but I'm saying what we've witnessed in the late 2010s and early 2020s, I'll take late 80s charm. Like I will seriously willingly rewatch Howard the Duck over a lot of stuff I've seen.
I would take Howard over most bad like fucking Marvel movies from the
Oh
past like
yeah,
couple decades or so.
yeah.
Like
Well, because I was gonna say earlier when talking about that video that Doug did where he talked about the dark age of cinema, how he made it a point to be like, oh, it's okay. Movies after that era got better. It's like, uh okay, Doug. He's like, it's okay. Movies now in 2015, they're much better. It's like,
yeah, I
yeah, okay, Doug.
I think it's this arbitrary thing to decide, oh, this was a dark era of because really you could pick quite literally, I think, any span of years for movies, and you can cherry pick.
Yeah,
Oh, well, these ones were all really bad and had a bad trend, I guess. And then go, oh, well, these ones are better, and you cherry pick all the good movies and ignore all the slop
exactly.
that happens. Not to say that movies are 100% the overall quality has always stayed the same. But I don't like comparisons like that because it's like
Hmm.
if you look hard enough, you can make that argument for any sort of time period.
You
Like,
know
well,
what?
this one was really good. Then
Yeah,
it gets better. Then
yeah.
it gets good. You know.
I can
So,
definitely name like a bunch of movies I love from every decade of film, harkening back to all the way back to the early 20th century. I can also name films from each decade that I fucking despised from each of those decades. Like,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Which is that's why I always hate the argument now of people are like, "Wow, movies are dying,"
yeah,
and it's like, what? The DC movie was bad.
yeah.
Like fucking every year has good shit.
Every year
It's a
has good
lame
shit. Every year
argument.
has bad shit. Like, yes,
Exactly.
most of the movies I've seen
Exactly.
this year in 2024, I've given negative scores, but guess what? I've also seen Hundreds of Beavers, Dune Part 2, The Fall Guy I actually enjoyed. Like, there's going to also be good stuff. Like, it,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
And just silly generalizations to always
Silly
make.
generalizations.
Like,
You're right. You're right.
definitely.
So,
But uh the point I'm trying to make is Howard the Duck is not evidence cinema is dying.
no.
And then
If that was the case, we missed out on a lot of great things after Howard the Duck because it was 1986. That predates a lot of stuff. That predates, oh, just off the top of my head, RoboCop, Pulp Fiction, Lord of the Rings trilogy, Jurassic Park. Can I continue? Like,
exactly. Like you could do that with anything really, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I like to imagine critics in '86. They're like, "Oh well, it's over.
It's
Pack
so
your
Jover.
bags."
Yeah, no, we did just fine. And it's funny that people would have thought that, and yet Howard the Duck now is on 4K because it has that much of a cult
Exactly.
following.
Yeah.
Because I'm
I
holding the
love
4K
that.
right
That
now.
like mm, I remember that when you posted that one time on the server that you were like, "I got Howard on 4K." I'm like, "Okay, I know what I'm doing." And it's like and it's like now I had that idea locked in the back of my brain. So you
Yeah,
were like, "Oh, are you ready
yeah,
for your episode?" I'm like, "Hold on.
yeah,
This is my moment,
yeah.
my triumph." Because I every other podcast, no one wants to do a Howard the Duck episode, except Too Many Movies. They're
You had to
very
come to too
inclusive
many movies to
in that
talk
way.
about Howard the Duck.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
the
That
internet the
Two
inter
fella was very nice.
yeah the internet's trash can. Too many movies.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, is there anything else we
it
have to
is.
say about Howard the Duck?
Um, I don't know. I have very general like thoughts, but it's not a lot of. It's kind of funny. I feel like we talked more about the impact of Howard the Duck rather
Yeah,
than
than the actual.
Howard the titular
Yeah.
duck.
Well, you know what?
But
Because I
on
feel
a lot of
like
the bits, I think sort of. Sorry, yeah.
no, I was just gonna say because I feel like it is something worth experiencing. Like I would absolutely recommend that
Yeah.
people watch Howard the Duck. You're probably gonna hate it,
Hmm.
but that's the risk of watching movies.
Exactly. It's like I think even if you hate it, you're gonna have an interesting experience with it, and that's
Absolutely.
something I cannot say for a lot of dog shit. It's like, oh, it's bad. It didn't make sense. It was
Yeah.
boring. All right,
Yeah.
then you're
Yeah.
done. But no, Howard, it's a discussion piece. It's an interesting mark in history. It's so iconic that
The very first
I think
Marvel
James
movie.
Gunn used it in like Guardians of that. I never watched those movies because I
Oh,
hate
the
James
Guardians
Gunn.
movies. Yeah, so yeah, Howard the Duck shows up in the after credit scene in the very first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And then
Yeah, okay.
he makes a cameo in 2, and I think he was in 3. I actually, oh, you know, he's probably at that poker game in 3. So yeah, he has been
Uh,
in those Marvel movies. He's never had a prominent role because I think Marvel's too afraid, because this movie was
hmm.
kind of a gigantic failure back in the 80s. So
The You know what I would really hate is I don't like the idea of if they were to do another Howard thing. I feel like what they would do is like we were talking about earlier, to make it super self-aware and be like, haha, look at this
mm,
joke character, and they try to play it up so much. And in trying to appeal to that ironic appeal, kind of just loop around and fucking fall flat on its face, and people would be like, oh, this is boring.
100%
So
agree.
the short of it
100%
is, I
agree.
hope Howard never gets a real MCU appearance because they'd ruin my goat, is to
Yeah.
say.
You know
He'd be
what? You're
squandered.
absolutely right. This would be a case where I think people would go back. Like, I can just imagine them doing like a Disney Plus series of Howard the Duck, and it
Yeah,
being
I hate that.
unbelievably
So
cringy to the point that people will have to crawl back to the 80s movie and be like, "My god, we we didn't know what we had." Like, you know, which I can
exactly.
say this right now. You know what? They haven't announced anything, but maybe in the next couple of years they're going to announce a Howard the Duck TV show on Disney Plus. It's going to be dog shit. And that's when people are going to crawl back to Howard the Duck, but you and me, we're getting in on the ground floor. I can definitively say I prefer the 80s movie already.
I I don't even know what that potential series is, but I know where my priorities
Yeah.
lie.
No, I
Howard.
you're absolutely right though. I think you're right in predicting that it would be painful because it would be self-aware, and I do not trust Marvel comedy. Like, the Marvel comedy I trust is James Gunn. Even then
Oh,
that can be a little much at times, but at least I understand and appreciate the effort that he puts in, whereas any other attempt at Marvel comedy can be quite painful at times. So
my God, I'm MCU humor in that Howard style would be so annoying. It'd be like, what
it would be
a
so
talking duck,
tragic.
and they'd like place so much emphasis on it. It'd be
Yeah.
so annoying.
See, that's one of the funniest
Not
things
even
about
James Gunn, I think, would make it work because, well, I hate James Gunn, but that's a story for another day.
Well,
But
yes, you hate James Gunn, but no, even as somebody
yeah,
who does like James Gunn, I don't think he could do Howard the Duck justice.
no, no, he would. See, I don't think James Gunn would because I think he has this. Probably why he even put Howard into Guardians. But from what I haven't seen his Guardians stuff because I'm just out of the loop on MCU stuff in general, and now it's too big to catch up on. So I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
could ignore it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. With James Gunn in general, what I've seen of him, I feel like he has a very basic sort of edgy sense of humor where he's like, oh, um, I like because I you've seen his Scooby Doo stuff, right? Like
Scooby Doo
Scooby
stuff
Doo
is
and
dog
everything.
shit. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I really hate
I will not fall
no,
for the Scooby Doo live action propaganda. You cannot convince me
mm,
those movies are fun. They're
definitely
not.
not. See, I hate his Scooby Doo stuff 2002 because it's such a lame. I hate how like
Yeah.
people are complaining about Velma now, and I agree that's like such a lame thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think 2000 is like the predecessor of that, or it's this idea where it's like, oh, it's the Scooby Gang, but they all hate each other, and whoa, we're gonna have Scrappy Doo, and he's the villain because people thought he was annoying.
Yeah.
It just is such basic sort of
Basic.
type of humor I really fucking
Yeah.
hate in his Scooby Doo. It's so lame.
I hate those
But
movies mainly because of Raja Gosnell, and people try to say, "Oh, no, but the good stuff is because of James Gunn." It's like, I don't know. I highly doubt he
I
could have
just
made
don't
that work.
like well, no, because I've heard the ideas for what he wanted it to be, and it sounds even worse. Because he's like, they were gonna, "Oh, let's make an R-rated Scooby-Doo movie where Shaggy
uh,
smokes pot."
uh,
Like, no, that would be terrible,
yeah.
and if anything, we may have got the better cut. So
Oh,
it's like,
which
uh,
is horribly depressing.
exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, look,
And I
I
guess
do like the Guardians movies because I feel like, yes, they're definitely James Gunn's vision, but it does feel like he kind of reins it back a little so that he can make it a little more marketable. They're not, I wouldn't say they're edgy movies. I will say I think the Guardians movies are some of the best stuff he's made because I do feel there's something there. They're not for everybody because some of them do have the usual MCU issues. Like if you don't like a lot of the things the MCU does, you're probably not going to get a ton out of the Guardians movies. But I think there's enough to them that you can still get something out of it more than say a Thor or a Doctor Strange or especially a Captain Marvel.
I'm willing to trust you on that because
Yeah.
I'm still never watching them.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
But, yeah, I don't. It's again one of those comparison things where I know a lot of people were like, when Guardians 3 came out, everyone was like, "Whoa, this is the best thing ever! It's so cool!" And I'm like, "Well, I'm sure it has elements to appreciate, but how much of that was just because every other Marvel movie was like flopping? So you go, and that's a little better.
It was
People are like, "Whoa,
I will say
perfect!"
I did like Guardians 3, but yes, a lot of the hype around it was only because of the fucking fact that the movies that came before and after were phase 4 stuff. So like
Exactly.
yeah, no.
Exactly.
But I will say that doesn't I think I still think it's a good film, but it's good in the bare minimum sense. Like I don't know, when I think of the best MCU stuff, I'm not going to think Guardians 3. I'm going to think Guardians 2. Like I feel like Guardians 2 is way better. And that was made at a time when people were still fond of the MCU back in the good old days of 2017.
Wow. Back when everyone wasn't saying, kill the MCU.
Yeah, back when people were just like, well, now that Guardians 3 has happened, I don't care. Then Fantastic Four gets announced.
Oh my God.
Like,
I genuinely hate those people so
Yeah.
much because there are so many people who, when Guardians 3 came out,
Yeah.
they were bragging, going, well, I don't care about Marvel, but this will be my last movie and I'm done from here. And those same people are lining up a couple months later to watch the Marvels opening night. Like, you don't fool me.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
I know exactly where your head's at.
My stance on that is I will never say I'm not going to be done with the MCU. I've definitely quote unquote checked out. I'm still going to watch them. I'm just taking my time with watching them. I still haven't seen Quantumania yet. I know people are saying I shouldn't. I will someday. I'm just taking my sweet, sweet time with it.
Quantumania is actually really funny for me.
Yeah.
Because I did a watch party of like a cam rip with friends when it came out. And it was like, all my friends were like really upset at being like, wow, this is all stupid. It makes no sense. And they were right. It's a terrible ass movie.
Yeah.
But I was like so checked out from the MCU. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't even have like overly negative thoughts about this.
Yeah.
I just like, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's never, okay. The only MCU movie I actually cared about being shit when it came out was remember when Doctor Strange, that was like a little bit ago. And I found that annoying because I really am I don't think you've covered them yet, but I really, really love the Raimi Spider-Man stuff. So people are like, whoa, Sam Raimi's back. It's just like The Evil Dead. And you go watch it. And like, sure, there are elements of that stuff, but it just seems very like diet what like something like Army of Darkness would do. So it's like, this isn't Sam Raimi. This is Sam Raimi restrained under major Marvel restrictions.
Yeah.
But people love it because it's like, I guess, comparatively to like basic ass Marvel stuff, it's kind of creative.
Yeah.
But like, is it really? That's a pet peeve I have.
No, absolutely. No, and I did like Multiverse of Madness when I first watched it. I mean, I haven't seen it in nearly 2 years, so how good was it really? You know, even then I wasn't like praising the hell out of it. I wasn't saying like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like I still had criticisms for it, like the cameos and stuff. I was like, this is lame. Like, can we go back to the cool Sam Raimi stuff? And it was just
exactly.
Messy...
It's like I never got much of that like Sam Raimi thing. So it's like, just a very
by the end of it, I was still just like, you know what?
me.
I think I would still prefer Spider-Man 3. Comparatively, because like I don't know, Spider-Man 3, as messy and terrible as that movie is, it's funny. Like I've never had a bad time watching Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I have beef with Spider-Man 3 criticisms too. I hate the way that movie's talked about now because people are watching it and they're like, "Wow, it's so funny. Why did he do the wacky dance?" And they act as if that's the problem with the movie and
Yeah.
not how it's like tonally
And I
dog
hate
shit
how
and pacing wise.
and even then
Just that's really annoying
I
too.
also kind of hate how Spider-Man 3 has kind of gotten a bit of a resurgence. I mean, I don't hate that it's gotten a bit of a resurgence. I'm glad we're analyzing it and actually giving it uh credence. Like it's not as bad as maybe we thought, but people are just like, "Oh, we owe Spider-Man 3 an apology. Like it's actually a great film." It's like, "No, it's not. It sucks.
Mm.
It's
This
funny."
is a cycle that I am sure will happen forever
Yeah.
because think Spider-Man 3 gets a bunch of hate. Everyone's like, "Wow, this sucked." Haha. Then Amazing Spider-Man 2 comes out. People are like, "Well, maybe Spider-Man 3 isn't so bad." Haha. And then enough time passes where now people are trying to gas up the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it's like, "Guys,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Be real for a second,
Look,
Jesus."
yeah,
Like
no. I find Amazing Spider-Man 2 entertaining, but I would never argue it as anything great. Like, yeah, when No Way Home came out, people were
exactly.
like, maybe Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't that bad. It's like, no, 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 it's bad. It's bad. Like, it's funny.
Exactly.
It's maybe funnier than I gave it credit for. Like, I don't think it's as bad as maybe we said so in 2014. But let's not go too far and say it's actually good. Like that's what people are doing with
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
3. They're just like, maybe
It's
this
just
is
this
actually
I think
great.
it's
It's like,
this
no.
constant cycle,
Yeah.
especially with big franchises, where we're always gonna be a state of we overreact, we call something the worst thing ever. Maybe sometimes it's justified, maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
Then a couple years pass, and another thing is the same thing, and then we gotta be like, "Well, was the other thing secretly amazing?" And it's like, no, multiple things can be bad, and just because time passes doesn't
Yeah.
change how shit it actually is, you
So
know? Just our perception does, I guess, and
so let
franchises get this all the
yeah.
time. Star Wars always does, like, now
Star
people
Wars.
are like, "Well, maybe the prequels are misunderstood masterpieces," and look, I love The Phantom Menace.
Me too.
I think it's an awesome movie. But if you want me to unironically defend it, I'd have to, like, think about it. I don't know if I could put on a
I would
big
never
thesis.
claim the prequels as good movies. I've never had a bad time watching the prequels.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
There's a reason, like, equal quotes and memes and bits are such a big thing now
yeah,
because it's like,
because they're so funny.
everyone loves them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's make this clear.
Mm.
We're not saying Howard the Duck is a good film.
Oh,
We
fuck,
just
we were talking about Howard the Duck?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think this still applies though, because I feel like we were saying, they might do an MCU Howard the Duck thing later down the line. It'll be so bad that people will be like, maybe Howard the Duck, the original 80s movie, was actually good. It's like, no, 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 no. No.
Exactly, that will I know for a fact
Yeah.
it would happen, and look, I love to dick ride Howard, but also I don't wanna pretend it's high art
No.
in any
Yeah.
stretch of the
It's
definition, so
bad.
it's
It's a
like, come on.
bad film, but it's
Oh,
not the
definitely.
worst thing in the world. I think it's highly
Yeah,
entertaining, but it is not
yeah.
a good film. It is terrible.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's just this way the internet always has to interact
Yes.
with extremes in ways, and, like, I've talked about this with people before, it just totally ruins the nuances of discussion, where
Mm.
people always gotta be like, "Oh, well, it was never good, it was awful, it was the worst thing ever," or, "Oh, it's the best thing of all time, since it
Yeah.
just came out, we're gonna make sure it gets number 16 on the letterbox 250." It's like,
Yeah.
it ruins discussion in a way where everything has to be so black and white, and I
Absolutely.
personally really hate
Yeah.
that. Like, come on.
So yeah, Howard the
Be
Duck,
real for a
bad
second.
film, but highly entertaining, and I highly recommend it. So I
100%.
will never
If anything,
ever
it'll
claim it
make an
as good.
interesting discussion piece
Yeah.
because, like, now we've gotten, philosophical about the depths of film discussion because
Yeah.
of, our boy Howard over here.
Thank you,
So,
Howard. Thank you,
yeah,
George.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, George, honestly. George Lucas, my man,
Yeah.
who, presented this film in the executive position role. Like, wow, look at him.
Look at him.
What a guy.
What a guy.
What a what mm. George Lucas is like I'm looking at George Lucas's letterbox is so funny because you look at his executive produce, it's like, "Oh, okay, Indiana Jones, uh-huh. Star Wars, that makes sense."
Mhm.
Then, like, miscellaneous stuff, and you scroll lower, it's like, "Oh, okay, Willow, A Land Before Time is really random on here, actually. I didn't know he produced that. But then there's like the fucking Ewok shit
Yeah.
and Strange Magic for that movie. Strange Magic.
Movie I haven't watched.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I clearly made some impression.
Yeah.
And oh god, have you ever seen these young Indiana Jones things? There's like a million of these, and I never like.
Yeah.
Never
I've never watched any of them. I was thinking about those when I did my Indiana Jones franchise review like a year ago when Dial of Destiny was coming out. I was thinking like, should I do all these? But then I was like looking, I was like, oh, there's like a million of these. No fucking way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't even know if any of them are like good. I just know that there are a lot of them exist, and I
Yeah.
can't say I've even heard discussion about any of them. So it's like,
I'm
oh,
sure they have their
were
fans,
they
but yeah,
secret
they're
masterpieces all the time? Did Crystal Skull make young Indiana Jones and timeless masterpiece? Who
yeah.
knows?
Yeah. I'm sure they
Who
have their
knows?
fans, but I think the conversation is always going to be on the films. So
Definitely, definitely. Got to talk about how Crystal Skull, a misunderstood masterpiece because of
no, no, no,
Dial
no.
of Destiny or whatever.
I hate
You
Dial of
know,
Destiny, but I'm not going to go back on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Do I hate Kingdom of the Crystal
look,
Skull
I
a
think
bunch?
Crystal
No,
Skull is a fun movie,
I think so.
but also it's like I think it's weird to like. It's just annoying in discussions like these because they'll be like, "Oh, well, this is bad, but this is really good," and it's like, well, you have the good movies to compare it to. You can't gas up Crystal Skull as if it's awesome.
Yeah,
Also, was following up the fucking Last Crusade. Like, be real for a second.
yeah,
Ridiculous,
that is
but
ridiculous.
yeah. Uh, oh yeah, I guess Indiana Jones, Howard. There we go. There's a line to that.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
George Lucas.
wow. I guess that was Howard the Duck.
I guess we have another
I guess.
2-hour episode on our hands, ladies and gentlemen.
God. It was really funny, right?
Yeah,
Because when I was talking with you, I was like, okay, we had this other idea, but it was really big. So I was like, you know what? What? How long can a fucking joke pick and 50 minutes of Family Guy cutaways be? And here we are. Here
yeah.
we are.
2 hours
So
later. Again, I was thinking, oh, you know what?
exactly.
The past couple of episodes, I've been like, okay, I'm done with the 3-hour episodes. Let me just go back to doing like simple hour-and-a-half episodes. And then I had Terminal on, and we had a 3-hour episode about Old Boy and Training Day, and now I have you on. we're at over 2 hours.
Man, I'm tired of 3-hour episodes. And we're gonna go 2-hour episodes, like
So,
you know.
but you know what? I'm
Yeah, I
glad.
think you're doing a good thing. You're ramping yourself up for the 100th episode that's
Oh, that's
coming
gonna be
up
like what,
here.
6 hours long?
Yeah, I think it'd be really funny if one of the random ones you've done is longer than the 100th. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like episode 100 is like less than the first episode, and the first episode was only
you do
14
episode
minutes.
100 and it's like the length of the solo episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
So, all right.
it's funny how long you lose track of time when recording episodes sometimes. It's really funny.
Yeah, because we
Where
go on long tangents.
yeah, I was doing this episode a while back with Anthony Can't Be Cast, and essentially we were going off, and I was like, wow, we've been here a while. And then Anthony DMs me not to like interrupt the flow of the conversation. He goes, "We've been recording for nearly 4 hours," and I think I audibly went like, "What? Are you serious, bro?" And it was by that point I was really tired.
Yeah.
Really funny that we have like 4.5-hour episode. I didn't even question it. Funny how podcasts go sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
yeah.
So
Howard the Duck.
4K. I'm keeping it because it was funny, and I think it would be funny to
Yeah, you
have
go,
in the
Hal,
collection.
my man.
Yeah, you've converted me to a Howard head, so thank you for
Yeah, no problem. I love to spread the word.
that. So, all right, let's end this thing.
Yeah.
Brian,
Yeah.
shout out your stuff, dude. Where can people find you?
All right. Well, I have a myriad of plugs, most of the same as last time, if you can remember. I have a letterbox. I am very inconsistent with what I log on there, but I'm sure you can find me. Pleebus is my name. No one calls me that, but it's kind of like it's been too long for me to actually change it.
Yeah.
It should be just roll with that. Then you can find me again on Letterboxd. I have a serialized too, which you might link. That's where my show stuff is. That site is kind of ass, but it's the only place I can log TV.
Were you the one who got?
I gotta deal.
You got your serialized account banned? Was that you?
Oh, it was me. It's the funniest story actually, because
you might as well tell it.
Yeah, okay, I'll get on that. But oh my god, it was hilarious because so I wake up one morning and I'm like, oh, my account got terminated. I wonder what this was for. Like, oh, it says you may have used something that violated the guidelines. And I'm like, really? Me? Innocent old Brian? What did I do? So I look around, right, and I check, and it's this thing I said 5 months ago on my friend's log as an inside joke. I mean, terminated 5 months after the fact. And I go to appeal, and I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. It's like, yeah, well, you still shouldn't have done that, so we're going to ban you for like 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, that's odd, 3 weeks. And it's the funniest thing. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, all right, I guess my serialized account's back. And I check, I get banned again. And I'm like, okay, why am I banned again? It says it's because I'm a duplicate of a suspended account. And I'm like, really? How is that? And it's such a funny story because I got suspended because when I originally got banned, I made a second account to be like, okay, will this work? It's like, oh, they IP banned me, so I can't go back on my second. So I have the second banned account. When I get unbanned, that account gets auto banned for being a duplicate of the account that was being banned in the first place, but that account was unbanned. So might be the stupidest situation I've ever come across. Like auto bot banning like twice, and they can never acknowledge it because it's like, come on, it's such a stupid system. Serialized is run on toasters, and I hate it. Yeah. But also, you can find me on there, and I think I carry the website. Sorry, I was plugging things.
You were plugging things, yes. So you plugged your Letterboxd, you serialized.
Yeah, my serialized. And my Campy Cast, which is podcast around with a friend of the Too Many Movies, Anthony. Mm-hmm. We're actually gearing up now for our 50th episode, so you can see that up and coming soon. But yeah, check that out. We have good podcast stuff. My boy Hal was on there a while ago, and we just recently dropped an episode on Hundreds of Beavers and the Knuckle Show, so clearly quite the wide variety there.
Excellent. And, I'm glad people are watching Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I really want to spread the word on that because it's like the coolest semi-new release in a while, and I'm really glad that it's getting some sort of cult following now.
Oh, dude, it's
such a cool.
It's one I'm willing to claim already as my favorite film of the 2020s. Like, that's how much I love it.
Honestly, not much has topped it for me, so I can see that. You got to do an episode that do like a Blu-ray eventually. That would be
the absolute second I can get my hands on a Blu-ray, I'm doing an episode on it.
Oh, hell yeah!
So I
will
waiting.
Be tuning in.
I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm waiting. Patiently waiting. Yeah.
So.
Anyway, okay.
Right. I guess that's all my.
Yeah, all your links will be in the description, dude.
Yep. So, that's everything.
Yeah. I think that's everything for me. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Just for